The Radiance of Pokémon wisdom. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151 Sudden Attack. The vast blue sky, white clouds, a hot air balloon with a meow head flying freely here. Zahu lay in the hot air balloon with a lazy look on his face. He could travel without moving at all, which was really suitable for a lazy man like him. You still can't thank me, the inventor. Meow Meow said proudly with his hands on his waist. As for why he made this Meow Meow hot air balloon, is there any need to say it? Of course, it's because everyone has a flying mount, and no one takes him to play, so he had to make one himself, and play by himself. Yes, you should make more of this kind of invention, so that it won't be in vain that I have signed up for so many cram schools for you, Zahu said lazily. Meow Meow was originally full of pride, but seeing Zahu so lazy, he suddenly felt no sense of pride. What's the use of inventing more? Anyway, it won't increase your salary. Hey, is that a fire-breathing dragon in front? It seems that there are quite a lot. Kajiro suddenly said. Charizard? Zahu's eyes lit up slightly, and he looked to the side, and found that there were indeed several Charizards flying freely in front of him. He couldn't help but wonder in his heart, wow, where is this? Charizards are not cabbages on the roadside. Not to mention that Charizard is powerful. Such a powerful Pokémon is generally rare in the wild. As for the possession of Charizard, it is usually in the hands of the League, and is specially provided to new trainers. It is normal to have one or two Charizards occasionally in the wild, but a group of Charizards is not normal. If there is a group of Charizards, then there should only be Charizard Valley. Counting the place, we should be close to it, Kona said. Charizard Valley? Oh, right, I almost forgot. This is a must-visit place for Charizard trainers. Zahu smiled. Charizard Valley is a place that most Pokémon fans know, because this is where Zyozzy and Charizard parted. It was here that the old student was bloody abused by a group of Charizards inside, and then he felt his own weakness, and then left Zyozzy, and stayed here to study. Speaking of which, Zahu still doesn't know how this Charizard Valley was formed. In short, when people realized that there were Charizards here, the Charizard Valley was formed. There are countless wild and powerful Charizards gathered there. They don't rely on trainers, but rely on each other's training to strengthen their strength. Charizard Valley, are there a lot of Charizards? Boss, don't you want to capture one? Zyozzy has already captured several Pokémon, but you have zero harvest in the Johto region. If you just rely on your old capital, you will be surpassed. Kajiro said. The people in Charizard Valley don't want to be captured. Can I force them? Besides, what do you mean by zero harvest? Riolu evolves into Lucario, and Ratini evolves into Dragonite. Isn't this a big harvest? On the contrary, you haven't captured a single Pokémon so far, and the evolution, and so on are also standing still. Zahu said. I'm not participating in the league competition. I'll wait for Hone to talk about the gorgeous competition. Kajiro shrugged. Success will not come to those who are unprepared. If you are aiming for the goal of becoming a master of coordination, then you must work hard now, because there are far more powerful coordination trainers than you think, and there are also many who can beat you. Zahu said solemnly. I will pay attention. Seeing Zahu's serious expression, Kajiro also said seriously. You have 6 Pokémon in your hand now. If you use Monini to fight, I guess you will feel bad. The remaining 5 are long-tailed crawlers, Squirtle, Pidgeot, Venusaur, and Growlithe. How do you plan to train them? Zahu said. I haven't thought about this yet. Kajiro said weakly. You are really not an ordinary casual person. Forget it. I will write a training plan for you tomorrow, and then Meowth will supervise and report the results to me. If you don't meet the training standards, let Meowth beat you. Zahu said. Let Meowth supervise. Boss, you are not kidding. Kajiro screamed. No, let me supervise. Boss, hurry up. Hearing that he could beat Kajiro, Meowth was immediately very excited. Start tomorrow. Ignoring Zynojiro's despair, Zahu directly issued an ultimatum. When Zyonojiro heard this, he immediately lay on the ground, as if he had collapsed, and didn't want to talk. Myaomio fell into ecstasy. His cat life has become simpler and simpler. There are only 3 goals that can make him ecstatic. The first is to make a lot of money, the second is to get married, and the third is to beat Zyajiro. Even Zyajiro doesn't know that Myaomio's dream is to eat, sleep and beat Zyajiro. Of course, if you say they have any deep hatred, there is none at all. The reason for this is that a cat dare not resist the power of someone else, so it has to bully another person. There is no way. There are 4 people traveling together. One is a golden thigh who gives money, and the other is a golden thigh that can't be offended. If you don't want to be the youngest Myaomio, what other choice is there? Zahu knew this, but he not only did not object, but was happy to see it happen. If the 2 guys fight each other, he doesn't have to worry. Otherwise, the 2 guys will join hands to make trouble for him, and he will cry. As for whether the relationship between Kajiro and Meowth will deteriorate, Zahu said that, even if it is the day he dies, these 2 guys will never break up. While thinking about something, he suddenly felt a gust of wind blowing. Before Zahu and his friends could react, they saw 2 sharp air slashes coming and hitting their hot air balloon. As we all know, Meowth's hot air balloon has weak defense capabilities except for anti-electricity, so the whole hot air balloon exploded without suspense. Zahu saw that the situation was not good and immediately threw out the 4 treasure balls he carried with him. Haxorus and the 3 mythical birds all flew out. Haxorus wisely became the mount of Zahu and Kona, and then Articuno vibrated its wings and grabbed Kajiro and Meowth with its 2 claws. Although Moltres and Zapdos had also seen Kajiro and Meowth, their relationship was not as good as Articuno's, so they did not come to rescue them in the first time. Zahu, who almost fell from the sky, was full of anger. He looked in the direction of the air slash with an angry face and saw 2 fire-breathing dragons there, flapping their wings. It was obvious that they had just used their special moves. I just don't know if they were practicing special moves or if it was intentional. The 2 fire-breathing dragons seemed to realize that their attacks accidentally injured Zahu and his men, but when they saw that they were fine, they just flew away without taking it seriously. Seeing this, Zahu's face sank. Damn it, you hit someone, and walked away as if nothing happened. Do you think I'm dead? No matter if you hit someone by accident or not, you didn't even apologize for hitting someone, so don't blame me. Zapdos, send these 2 guys to 100,000 volts. Upon hearing this, the lightning bird immediately burst into a strong electric current and flew straight towards the 2 fire-breathing dragons. The 2 fire-breathing dragons were caught off guard and were directly scorched and fell down. The other one sprayed blazing flames at the lightning bird in extreme anger. The wings of the Zapdos vibrated, and there was a bit of tyranny in its eyes. Among the 3 mythical birds, its strength was the weakest, but its personality was the most violent. The strong electric current gathered, and it was ready to burst out with even stronger power. However, before it could burst out, Moltres, who refused to let him be the only one in front of others, sprayed out strong flames first, not only blocking the flames of the Charizard, but also burning the face of the Charizard with flames. The Zapdos made an angry cry, as if accusing Moltres of stealing heads. Moltres glanced at the Zapdos with disdain. I stole your heads, so what? Are you hitting me? You're my younger brother, just behave yourself. The Zapdos was full of anger, but because he couldn't beat Moltres, and because Zahu said before that he could only fight again in half a year, he didn't dare to fight again. He looked at the remaining Charizard angrily, intending to vent his anger on him. The Charizard seemed to sense that the Zapdos was not easy to mess with, and immediately roared loudly, shaking the earth. Not long after, many black shadows emerged from a valley not far away, and then in a few breaths, they all stood behind the Charizard. They were all Charizards, and there were dozens of them. The Charizard saw that these Charizards finally came out, and immediately flew to the side of a Charizard, roaring in a low voice, as if saying, "Dad, someone hit me." After hearing the roar of the Charizard, the other Charizards roared in anger, staring at the Zapdos and Moltres with unkind eyes. Even though the 2 birds were mythical beasts with extraordinary strength, they still felt a chill under the gaze of dozens of Charizards. Most of the Charizards here were not their opponents, but there were a few particularly large ones, which were exceptions, not to mention that the group of dragons attacked together. Thinking of this, the two divine birds turned to look at Zahu and said, "You have a father, and we also have a boss. If the boss agrees, we will do it. It's just a Charizard. We have even done things with divine beasts." Chapter 152. Single-handedly challenge the fire-breathing Dragon Valley. Zahu's face darkened slightly. He didn't expect that he would be attacked just for flying in the sky, and he would attract the Charizards of the entire Charizard Valley. It was really like a disaster for a good time. But if he was provoked, was he afraid? These Charizards were very strong together. But so what? Could they stop Jigglypuff from speaking? You know, because of the two Charizards, the hot air balloon exploded. If he hadn't brought 4 flying Pokémon with him, he might have lost his arms and legs after falling from such a high place. Even if he didn't, he would have to stay in bed for 10 days or half a month. After so many years, he also found that, although he was in good health, he was not a Superman. He was not like Zyozzy, Kachiro, and Meowth, who could not die, no matter how they fell. My friends and I have no intention of making enemies with you. We are just here to have fun. However, your Charizard attacked us for no reason. You need to give us an explanation, Zahu said to the largest Charizard in the group. Standing in the front, it was more than half the size of the other Charizards. It must be the leader of the Charizards. The leader of the Charizards naturally understood human words. He asked the Charizard and then yelled at Zahu. Although he didn't think Zahu could fully understand, he wanted to make the meaning clear. It was just an accident, but you attacked our people. It's your fault. This was the reply of the leader of the Charizards. After attacking people, you didn't even apologize. It's your fault, Meow. Meow cried. Now it is not the Meow Meow in the original book who has flown countless times. It has lived a very comfortable life these years. How could it have been frightened like this? It cried very dissatisfiedly. The leader of the Charizards didn't seem to expect that there was a Pokémon like Meowth who could understand him and speak human language in Zahu's team. He was stunned for a moment, but soon reacted and blew out a mouthful of thick flames, protesting, "No matter what, you hurt our Charizards, you have to pay the price." After that, all the Charizards blew out flames, dyeing half of the sky red in an instant, and the meaning of the protest was self-evident. Zahu saw this scene. His face was slightly gloomy, but he was not too surprised. Pokémon are different from humans after all. Meowth is an exception, especially the Pokémon of the tribe. It's even simpler. They just protect their shortcomings. If you touch our people, we will beat you. Domineering and unreasonable. There is no reason to survive in the wild. Not to mention that Charizard's personality is arrogant and domineering, especially the group of Charizards in the Charizard Valley. They are all self-centered, and they don't think highly of human trainers, and they are only immersed in their own training. It seems that there is no explanation, so I have to come up with an explanation myself, and beat all of you useless dragons down. Only in this way can I calm down. Tell me, do you useless dragons want to attack one by one or all at once? Zahu put his hands in his pockets and said arrogantly. Since there was no agreement, Zahu was no longer afraid. He released Jigglypuff and started to taunt. It has been many years since I said such a provocative thing, but it feels good to say it occasionally. What did you say? The leader of the Charizard roared, and a blazing flame spurted out of his mouth. The sky-high fire column came straight towards Zahu. As the leader of the Charizard, it was arrogant and would never allow humans to say that it was a useless dragon. The flame column came fiercely, but the Pokémon on Zahu's side were not for show. Moltres screamed and blocked in front of Zahu. A mouthful of flame faced the flame of the leader of the Charizard. The two fought, and it was a tie. Neither could do anything to the other. The Charizard leader's eyes condensed, revealing a bit of caution, while Moltres felt a sense of irritability. It couldn't even beat a non-divine beast. Zahu didn't look surprised when he saw this. In the animation, when Zyoz's Charizard came here, it couldn't even beat the weakest one. Although Zyoz's Charizard had not yet been strengthened in the later period, and had not fought a bloody battle with Articuno to become a god, it was probably at the elite level, and even in that episode, it was weakened. However, it can be seen from here that the strength of the Charizards in the Charizard Valley, and as the leader of the Charizard Valley, the strength is naturally stronger. On the other hand, although Moltres is a divine beast, it is well known that a third level god has no dignity. If Moltres had not been trained with the treasures of the god of fire on the fire island next to Asia Island, and if Zahu had not been training continuously, it would not be the opponent of this Charizard leader. If you can only fight in a group, what else can you do but useless dragons? The strong ones go alone, while the weak ones stick together to save themselves. Facing the angry face of Charizard, Zahu was not afraid at all, but kept mocking. Kajiro, what does the boss want to do? This character is a bit inconsistent with his usual personality. Is it dangerous? Meow meow asked Kajiro weakly. Stupid, you still say that you are the boss's loyal lackey. Don't you know that the boss's characteristic is to seek death? Haven't you heard the boss say, as long as you are brave, you can stew the Phoenix King in a pot? Kajiro scolded. In recent days, he disliked Meow Meow more than usual, so even in such a critical moment, he couldn't help but start to scold. Will we die then? Meow Meow asked nervously. In fear, he didn't even have the energy to fight back against Kajiro. I don't know either. Looking at the ferocious Charizards, Kajiro was so scared that he shrank his neck. Kona was not as flustered as Meow Meow and Kajiro, but he subconsciously frowned when he heard Zahu's words. This guy was not just bragging, he really intended to challenge all of them. Zahu was already at the level of a king. Not to mention that there were only a few who could be his opponent. There were only a few who could serve as his sparring partners. Now this group of Charizards were all perfect sparring partners. So this guy definitely wanted to trick the hot-tempered Charizard leader on the opposite side into letting all the Charizards take turns to challenge his Pokémon, so as to hone the Pokémon's strength. But, wasn't he afraid of capsizing? None of these Charizards were below the elite level, and there were quite a few quasi-king level ones, and there were also king level ones. What are you afraid of? Just like that, come on. While Kona was still worried, the Charizard leader on the opposite side had already roared impatiently. After getting the answer, Zahu's mouth curled up slightly, and he was secretly proud in his heart. This world is dominated by humans, and there is a reason. Pokémon are really easy to fool. What Kona was thinking was almost the same as Zahu's plan. Although he could let Jigglypuff sing the Charizards to sleep, beating the sleeping Charizards would lack a sense of accomplishment, and the value of these Charizards would not be reflected. In this case, it would be better to fight them alone and leave a memorable nightmare for these Charizards. As I said, with Jigglypuff here, it's safe. One-on-one, I'll let the 3 Godbirds go and beat the Charizards in your entire Charizard Valley. Do you dare? Zahu provoked. The Charizard leader roared, saying that there was nothing to be afraid of. Then, the weakest Charizard in the Charizard Valley flew out directly. Molten, you go first. Zahu said. Molten Bird showed a trace of confusion. In this kind of wheel duel, shouldn't the weakest one go first? However, since Zahu gave the order, it went up. Anyway, it wanted to fight too. It stared at a Charizard on the opposite side, and then both sides sprayed flames directly. Just like electric Pokémon will communicate with each other by using electric shocks, fire Pokémon will usually attack each other by spraying flames first. It is not only a way to communicate, but also a way to judge each other's strength. In this flame battle, of course, Moltres won without suspense. Even the leader of Charizard could only fight it to a draw, let alone other Charizards. After a short flame battle, Moltres won. Its flames directly overwhelmed Charizard's flames, and then burned the Charizard completely, and then ended it with an air slash. The leader of Charizard didn't take it seriously. As expected, he asked someone to carry the Charizard back, and then continued. Zahu's Moltres also accepted all the attacks, with the flames boiling, as if it was a god of fire. Chapter 153 The Power of 3 Birds. Charge up at a 45-degree angle, and then dance with fire. Standing on a high point in the Charizard Valley, Zahu calmly issued the attack order, without any psychological burden, because of the large number of enemies and the small number of people. As for why he was in the Charizard Valley, it was naturally because one Charizard after another was beaten down, and the Charizard leader felt it was troublesome to bring them back one by one, so he simply stayed in the Charizard Valley, and Zahu naturally had no problem. Flames spurted out of the mouth of the Moltres, and then formed a spiral protective shield around the body, and rushed straight towards the opponent's jet of flames. With a powerful flap of its wings, it slapped the wings of the enemy Charizard swiftly. The Charizard screamed, and before it could react, Zahu shouted, "Destroy the death light." The strong energy in the mouth of the Moltres gathered, and it sprayed towards the Charizard without thinking. The Charizard was hit hard, and fell directly without suspense. Then the two Charizards pulled it aside, clearing the battlefield. The eyes of the leader of the Charizards were wide open, almost popping out of his chest with anger. This Moltres had already defeated 8 of them. If it weren't for the fact that many Charizards wanted to go up, he would have wanted to go down first. This efficiency is too slow. Let's just do it. All 5 of them come over here. Zahu pointed his finger and said in an extremely domineering manner. Roar. The 5 Charizards that Zahu had pointed out were immediately extremely angry, with flames bursting out of their mouths. Being pointed out by Zahu, doesn't it mean that they are so weak that they can't even fight alone? You know, there is a qua-seeking level among these 5. However, Zahu's behavior has completely angered them, and they have lost their minds. They don't care about the self-esteem of any Pokémon, and the 5 dragons go up side by side. Pray for rain, Zahu said. Moltres flapped its wings, and the sky was immediately covered with dark clouds, and large pieces of rain fell. As divine beasts, although the 3 divine birds are not particularly powerful, they are very good at controlling the weather. For example, when the Lugia in the Whirlpool Islands is angry, he can make the sea waver, and thunder and lightning without using any tricks. Although Moltres doesn't like this kind of rainy weather, and no one knows why Zahu chose to rain, it will do it when Zahu gives the order. Fire Dance and Divine Bird, Zahu said. Moltres' wings vibrated, and a layer of flame shield first emerged from the outermost layer of its body, and then a layer of blue light was emitted from the surface of its body, and the 2 lights merged into one. The 5 fire-breathing dragons simultaneously burst out their most powerful jet flames, and 5 pillars of fire burst out, but Moltres ignored them. It flapped its wings and calmly avoided the pillars of fire, and then burst out with amazing speed. In an instant, the divine bird quickly passed in front of the 5 fire-breathing dragons. Then, 5 sounds of dong 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 dong, just like dumplings. All 5 fire-breathing dragons fell to the ground with a dull sound. Roar. King level Charizard finally couldn't stand it anymore, took the initiative to fly out, and roared provocatively at Moltres. How could Moltres back down? It also spit out flames, and let Charizard know what the dignity of a divine beast is. Okay, Moltres, come back first, take a bath in the magma next to you, and come out to fight later. Next, let Zapdos come out to practice. Zahu took the initiative to stop. Moltres glanced at Zahu, and then he understood why Zahu let it appear first. He left his opponent behind, and flew directly to the crater of the Charizard Valley on the side, and took a comfortable bath in the magma. The Charizard on the opposite side naturally refused, but it had just taken a step, and Zapdos hit it with a 100,000 volt. Do you think I don't exist? Dare to move? Try it. See if I can chop you to death. You probably don't want to win unfairly. Take a break after fighting. Are you okay? The next one has a bad temper, Zahu said with a smile. The leader of the Charizard roared, and said nothing more. It must be said that, although these Charizards all have the character of a hot-tempered old man, Pokémon are Pokémon. No matter how bad their tempers are, they still have to win fairly. They really gave the crater to Moltres. Zahu smiled triumphantly, and then said to the lightning bird, come on, thunder, sound it. The lightning bird spread its wings, which were several meters long, and flew into the dark clouds. The originally rainy weather immediately turned into lightning and thunder. Thunder roared, and the lightning crisscrossed the sky like a snake, and a strong pressure was pressing down. The lightning bird, like Moltres, can swim freely in the magma and even use it to restore its physical strength. It also has the ability to freely control lightning. Facing the terrifying and overbearing lightning, the Charizard did not show any timid expression, but let out a provocative roar, and then directly erupted a big word explosion. The big word flame went straight to the thundercloud in the sky. The lightning bird was not afraid at all. With the same sharp cry, a bolt of lightning from the thundercloud struck down, piercing through the big character explosion, and striking Charizard magnificently. The Charizard immediately let out a sharp scream. In this thunderstorm, the power of thunder was increased. However, the strength of the Overlord at the level of the king was not fake after all. Although it was seriously injured after being hit, it did not immediately lose its fighting ability. Instead, its claws emitted a faint light, and it endured the pain and directly tore the lightning, and then bravely and fearlessly rushed into the thundercloud. Zahu's face changed slightly. It must be said that, although these Charizards in the Charizard Valley were not trained by trainers, they basically only had attack skills when fighting, and had no other defense, enhancement and other skills. Therefore, if they really fought with first-class trainers, they would be easily targeted. However, the Charizards trained in this pure wild environment were more wild and courageous than ordinary Charizards, and would even fight to the death. This crazy fighting style is undoubtedly extremely advantageous in battle. As the saying goes, the bravest wins when two meet in a narrow road. Sometimes the outcome of a Pokémon duel is not only determined by the strength of each other, but also by other factors. For example, Gyarados is restrained by the electric type 4 times, but ordinary electric Pokémon see it and run away in fear before they make a move. Seeing that the king level Charizard dared to rush into the thundercloud, the other Charizards in the Charizard Valley roared, as if congratulating the king level Charizard for its courage. The Charizard Valley is a place for the strong and the courage. Zahu glanced at the group of people, but he was not very worried. Rushing into the thundercloud is courageous, but that is where Zapdos is best. The king level Charizard's hands flashed with dim light, and the illusory dragon claws gathered around the real dragon claws, and then tore the lightning, full of power. If it were an ordinary Pokémon, most of them would cut before the battle, but can Zapdos be an ordinary Pokémon? It is the most irritable and grumpy brother among the three birds. Only it can scare people. How can others scare it? The lightning was shocking, and the lightning bird was bathed in lightning. It seemed to be wearing a layer of lightning armor. It burst and rushed over, and fought with the Uranus Charizard several times in the thundercloud, and collided violently. Finally, a white light appeared on the right wing, and it chopped down suddenly, like a sharp axe, directly knocking the Charizard down from the sky. The Uranus Charizard was still unwilling, and there was a strong fighting spirit in its eyes. It struggled to get up, but in the end, it still couldn't overcome the serious injuries in its body. All its persistence turned into helplessness, and fell down heavily. Finally, it defeated the enemy, and the lightning bird shouted excitedly, and the sky around it was thundering. Zahu saw this and smiled. The racial values and characteristics of the Threebads are not particularly superior to those of ordinary Pokémon. If it were in the game, the actual usability might not be comparable to that of the quasi-god. But in reality, it is different. The Threebads all have their own special abilities. Moltres can control the fire out of the body and use magma to heal wounds. Zapdos can shuttle between lightning and control lightning. These lightning will not only not cause him any damage, but will have a slight bonus, so he rushed into the thundercloud. Unless you are much stronger than Zapdos, and can pull it out directly, otherwise, it is only a matter of time before you fight Zapdos in it and lose. The cheers of Charizard disappeared, replaced by caution. The Charizard just now was not a simple Charizard. Next, how about you five come together? Zahu pointed to the 5 Charizards on the other side. Since the establishment of the Charizard Valley, it seems that no one has been defeated collectively, but he wants to try it today, to see how cool it would be to defeat the entire Charizard Valley. Chapter 154 The Three Divine Birds Advance. Boom 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 roar, or the deafening sound of thunder and the roar of anger. The two sounds intertwined and echoed throughout the Charizard Valley, overwhelming all other sounds. There were some relatively weak Pokémon surviving around, but at this moment, they subconsciously moved away after hearing the two sounds. This place is too scary. The lightning bird screamed, covered with lightning armor, and the bird attacked the opponent's Charizard. The Charizard on the opposite side changed its claws into illusory dragon claws, and attacked the lightning bird head-on. The two extremely powerful forces collided in one place, erupting with a shocking sound, and fell to the ground together, raising a large cloud of smoke. After the smoke cleared, the Charizard lay on the ground, unable to move, and completely lost the ability to move. The lightning bird also lay on the ground, but there was still a bit of unwillingness in its eyes, struggling to get up. It didn't want to fall down. There were more than 60 Charizards here, and it only defeated 25 of them, and they were the weaker ones. If it fell down like this, even if Articuno and Moltres defeated fewer than it, their final results would actually be better than its. In addition, it has electric attributes, which restrain Charizard. If it can't defeat more, they may not be able to finish the fight next. Feeling the unruly fighting spirit of Zapdos, the Charizards in the Charizard Valley showed a trace of admiration in their eyes and did not come out to attack. They were all Pokémon, and there was no deep hatred. They just fought for a small problem. Although they were dissatisfied with it defeating so many Charizards, they also admired its strength. The worldview of these Pokémon is very simple. The strong will be admired. Zahu also felt the reluctance of Zapdos. Among the 3 mythical birds, the one with whom he had the shallowest bond was Zapdos. Before he captured it, to be fair, he disliked Zapdos the most among the 3 mythical birds, because it was not good looking. But after he captured it, he had already treated them equally and deeply understood that Zapdos was the one that wanted to become stronger the most among the 3 mythical birds. Zapdos, break through your limits, just like Moltres did in the past. Don't lose to it. My 3 mythical birds are the strongest, Zahu shouted. Hearing Zahu mention Moltres, the reluctance in Zapdos' eyes became stronger. At that time, Moltres' breakthrough was achieved by stepping on it. I will never lose to Moltres. His body, which was originally a little weak, actually stood up with a breath of air. Okay, Zapdos, use feathers. Zahu smiled when he saw Zapdos stand up. After breaking through the limit, Zapdos' strength once again approached the other 2 divine birds. However, although Zapdos is now stronger, it has consumed most of its physical strength and is no longer able to fight. It can only use feathers to recover some combat power. Next, Articuno, freeze this place, Zahu said. Articuno, who had been impatient to take action, heard Zahu's order and immediately flew out, vibrating its wings, and ice and snow flew everywhere. The Charizards in the Charizard Valley ignored it. Compared with rainy weather, they liked this kind of ice and snow more. After all, they were cold resistant. Seeing Articuno coming out, a king level Charizard flew out of the Charizard Valley. The Charizard Valley is really unbelievably strong. There are at least 6 king level ones, and the strongest Charizard leader is even more difficult to estimate. His strength is even higher than that of the Charizard. He asked Moltres to take a bath, more to deal with this leader. Fortunately, Zapdos had already defeated 2 of the king class just now, and the rest should be cleared by Articuno. Roar. The king class Charizard roared, spewing blazing flames from its mouth. Before, the attributes of Moltres and the 2 sides were exactly the same, and neither of them had an advantage. Zapdos was at a disadvantage, because electricity was better than flying, but now it was finally at an advantage. Facing Charizard's powerful attack, Articuno had a calm expression and quietly waited for Zahu's order. Unlike Moltres' fiery and Zapdos' irritability, it was the most stable of the 3 birds. Break. Zahu said. Articuno immediately vibrated its wings, and 2 air slashes fell, directly splitting the flames of the opposite king class Charizard. Move at high speed, steel wings, Zahu said. Articuno moved quickly, and its speed increased suddenly. The opposite Charizard tried to stop it, and its claws shone brightly, and it attacked aggressively. However, Articuno, which was already moving at high speed, easily dodged it, and then its wings shone brightly, and violently slapped Charizard's body. Charizard roared, not expecting Articuno's strength to be so strong that it could easily break its flames, even when its attributes were restrained, and even hurt it with steel wings, an attack that was resistant to fire. Charizard twisted its body violently, and spit out a ball of flames. Articuno dodged again, and Charizard flew over quickly, trying to catch Articuno and use Earth Throw. Water Wave. Just as Charizard flew over quickly, and was about to catch it, Articuno spit a mouthful of Water Wave at Charizard's head, and Charizard's head was knocked crooked, and its body fell a few meters below under the force, and then it regained its spirits, and continued to attack Articuno. It turned over fiercely, and its tail shone brightly, but it was the Iron Tail, a steel-type trick that restrained Articuno. Take it head on, and then smash it, Zahu said. Articuno used its steel wings, to take Charizard's iron tail head on, then clamped Charizard's tail and swung it hard in the air, and it actually smashed it directly into the ground. Snowstorm. Articuno sang loudly, and its wings vibrated, and heavy snow flew all over the sky. In an instant, a thick layer of snow formed on Charizard's body. After evolving from Charmeleon to Charizard, it also had to pay the price of being unable to resist ice, after having the flying attribute of soaring in the sky. Finally, the freezing ray. Zahu said. The ice light in Articuno's mouth condensed, and then violently attacked Charizard, completely freezing it, and making it lose its combat ability. Next one. Zahu's voice sounded immediately. Charizard roared, and a Charizard behind it automatically flew out, but its strength was not as good as the previous Charizard. While Zahu was working with these Charizards were actually working with Zahu's 3 sacred birds. The only purpose of these Charizards gathering here is to become stronger and exchange experiences with each other. Although it is good to become stronger, it is also exciting to be able to fight with other powerful Pokémon. Articuno's eyes are calm, and he accepts all comers. The ice light flashes. Just like the lightning bird created thunderclouds just now, it is also creating its own ice and snow world. Although it is more difficult in the hot climate of Charizard Valley, it is creating it. After a long time, with a loud song, Articuno knocked down 5 Charizards at the same time, and the surrounding Charizard valleys also continued to have a light layer of ice. It actually relied on its own strength to freeze half of the Charizard Valley. Articuno, come back. Zahu suddenly said. Articuno has defeated 15 Charizards, 2 of which are at the king level, and are tired enough. It's time to let Moltres take over. After all, Articuno's attributes are restrained. Although it can be compensated by tactics, it is also very tiring to fight 15 Charizards in a row. However, Articuno, who had always obeyed Zahu, did not obey Zahu's words, and turned to Zahu and shouted, indicating that it still wanted to fight. Do you want to fight again? Zahu frowned. Yes, I want to break through the limit. Articuno said in Pokémon language. Zahu was stunned for a moment, and understood Articuno's intention. The growth of Moltres and Zapdos greatly stimulated it, and it was going to fight hard. It was not going to give up the title of the boss of the 3 mythical birds and the first Pokémon under Zahu. Okay, let's try it. Maybe we can feel the feeling we had on Asia Island. Zahu showed a smile on his face. Since Articuno wanted to fight, he would accompany him. Anyway, with Jigglypuff, he was very stable. Because he had done experiments, the 3 mythical birds could not withstand the monster Jigglypuff. According to Zahu's estimation, the first level mythical beasts are immune to Jigglypuff, and the other second level mythical beasts are also in trouble. He didn't believe that there was such a big boss in Charizard Valley. Articuno chirped and looked directly at the Charizard leader. The meaning was very clear. Come down. The pressure from Moltres and Zapdos was really great, so great that it wanted to fight. It even deliberately spent some energy before fighting the Charizard leader, just to have enough pressure and then enter the strange feeling of Asia Island before. The Charizard leader, as the leader of the Charizards in the Charizard Valley, was naturally powerful and arrogant. Facing the provocation of Articuno, it would naturally not turn a blind eye. It directly vibrated its wings and prepared to fight. But before it could burst out with power, suddenly a shocking dragon roar sounded, and then from the crater of the Charizard Valley, an extremely huge Charizard suddenly flew out, its wings vibrating, covering the sky and the sun, and flew fiercely. It first blew out a mouthful of flames, melting all the ice and snow around it, and then roared at the Charizard leader. Looking at the posture, it seemed like a lesson, and the Charizard leader did not dare to refute it, as if it was not as strong as it. Finally, the giant fire-breathing dragon roared, asked the leader of the fire-breathing dragons to retreat, and then hooked his finger at Articuno. Come here, sir, I'll play with you. Chapter 155 The first generation of Charizard. What's wrong with this Charizard? Wasn't the one just now the strongest in the Charizard Valley? Meow Meow said in shock. Yes, the science channel has said that the leader of a place is the strongest among them. Kajiro said. That's normal, but there are special cases. For example, some particularly strong Pokémon are stronger than the leader, but they are eccentric and unsociable. They leave the tribe and live alone, unwilling to lead. or there is a particularly lazy and strong one, and it is the elder of these Charizards. Kona said. So is it the former or the latter? Kajiro asked. It should be the latter. This Charizard is likely to be the first generation of the Dragon Clan. Kona said. Dragon Clan. Zahu looked at Kona in surprise. That's right. You know there is a powerful Dragonite left by a senior of the Dragonite clan in the Smoke and Ink Gym. That senior was the same as the current do, specializing in Dragon-type Pokémon. He dominated the Kanto and Johto regions at the time with a Dragonite and a Charizard, and was a well-deserved champion. After his death, Dragonite stayed in the sanctuary of the Smoke and Ink Gym, while Charizard disappeared. Now it seems that he should be retired here. After all, Charizard Valley itself is one of the industries of the Dragonite clan. Kona said. That's right. Zahu nodded. Although the Charizards in the Charizard Valley are all wild and do not obey human trainers, but train each other to strengthen their strength, they are not unmanaged. Otherwise there would be no Charizard statues in the Charizard Valley. In the animation, the clear manager is Jika, but it is too presumptuous for her to take care of the Charizards and the entire Charizard Valley alone. After thinking about it, in Kanto and Johto, the Dragonite clan is naturally the best at cultivating and caring for Charizards. In addition, in the animation, Miss Jika, the manager of the Charizard Valley, knows Zio Zuang, a member of the Yulan clan of the Yanmo Gym, so they are probably also from the Yulan clan. One of the main pets of the champion back then. Now it must be very powerful, not worse than the Moltres of the Orange Islands. Zahu suddenly said excitedly. Didn't he just want to find an opponent to fight? Very good. Let's start the battle. Articuno, be careful. This time, the opponent is very strong. Zahu said. Articuno cried out, to show that he knew. Water Wave. Zahu shouted. Let's try it out first. Articuno opened his mouth wide and fired a wave energy bomb. The Charizard on the opposite side looked at Articuno's water wave, and there was a light of interest in his eyes. A mouthful of blazing flames spurted out, not only offsetting the water wave, but also attacking Articuno and burning Articuno. Yusuke first. Zahu said. The Charizard on the opposite side was not inferior to Articuno in strength, and it was even likely to be above it. When Articuno was fighting just now, it consumed too much physical strength, and must make up for it. The Charizard above did not stop it. Since its master died, it came here, and lived a life of retirement. Every day, it slept in the crater, and basked in the sun. If it was too idle, it would train some younger Charizards. Today, it was because Zahu's Articuno froze half of the Charizard Valley, and woke it up with the cold. Then since it was awake, it just fought. Articuno's feathers recovered quickly, and soon it recovered most of its strength. It flew back into the sky, and looked at the Charizard opposite with a solemn expression. It knew that the opponent was very strong. Zapdos and Moltres also flew into the sky. They also wanted to fight this Charizard, but since the opportunity came to Articuno, it certainly would not grab it, not to mention that Articuno is still the boss now. Although they are all confident that they are not weaker than Articuno now, they dare not say that they are definitely stronger than Articuno. Articuno, air slash. Articuno's wings vibrated, and two sharp air blades broke through the air. Charizard opened its mouth and burst out a strong flame, slashing the air, cancelling each other out, and sparks flew everywhere. Charizard's wings vibrated, and quickly approached Articuno. Its fighting habit is to play with speed and strike first. But just as Charizard got close to Articuno, Articuno turned into a white light, and flew behind Charizard. In terms of speed, Articuno is not afraid of any Pokémon. The first generation Charizard turned around, and used its Dragon Claws to counterattack Articuno, but Articuno spun gracefully in the air and easily dodged it. Ice Dance, in addition to being a unique attack and defense move, can also be avoided. Charizard and Articuno, two Pokémon, fought fiercely in the air. Charizard was powerful, but not as agile as Articuno in close combat. After dodging Charizard's attacks several times, a fierce and powerful bird attacked Charizard from behind, knocking Charizard directly to the ground, raising a large cloud of dust. The group of Charizards behind saw that their elders were beaten, and they all showed angry expressions. It was only when the huge Charizard on the ground roared first that they reluctantly retreated. The smoke dissipated, and the Overlord Charizard stood there brazenly. Its eyes, which had been somewhat peaceful, became somewhat fierce. It suddenly flew into the sky, and 2 clouds of hot air came out of its nose. It began to get angry. It wanted to play, but ended up embarrassing itself. With its wings shining, Charizard flew quickly towards Articuno. Its wings were like 2 steel knives, cutting everything. Steel wings. Zahoo did not choose to escape, but chose to attack head-on. Articuno's wings shone, confronting Charizard head-on. The 2 sides fought, and it ended in a draw. Articuno used the force to throw Charizard out. Zahoo said. The 2 wings touched and rubbed against each other. Articuno showed all the special training he had in his daily life. With this weak friction, he restrained Charizard's wings, and then spun, and threw Charizard out. It seems that this Charizard is not as strong as I imagined. It's not as strong as the previous stronger Charizards. Kajiro said in surprise. Yes, meow, this Charizard is not as strong as I imagined. Meow said. No, didn't you notice that after several attacks, this Charizard still didn't receive much damage, but the power of the attack increased? Even the speed of movement became faster? Kona said with a serious face. Really? Why? Meow observed carefully, and said in surprise. Because this Charizard is regaining its strength bit by bit. Kona said. The power of Pokémon is not always fixed. On the contrary, the power of many Pokémon far exceeds their own cognition and needs to be excavated together with the trainer. Retired Pokémon like the Overlord Charizard are an exception. Because of the long period of no battle, the power in the body gradually becomes dormant, and many fighting instincts and consciousness have also fallen asleep. And now with the battle with Articuno, the power that is stronger than volcanic magma sleeping in Charizard's body is gradually awakening. Only the Charizard that has truly awakened is the Overlord Charizard of the past. And Kona has a hunch that time is not far away. But can Zahoo and Articuno cope with the fully awakened Charizard? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156 Awakening of the Charizard. Bang, bang, bang. Several battles broke out in succession, and Articuno suppressed Charizard. It found that, although Charizard was very powerful and its flames were very powerful, it was not fast enough, and did not react to the battle enough. Under Zahoo's command, Articuno found another opportunity to knock Charizard to the ground. The Charizard that fell to the ground also flew up quickly as before, and did not suffer any real serious damage. On the contrary, its flying speed was still increasing. Articuno vibrated its wings, and wanted to attack first again. However, when it flew quickly, and came to the place where Charizard was, it missed. It only felt a gust of wind flashing in front of it, and Charizard was behind it. A red light flashed in its eyes, and the Charizard's wings vibrated, which was extremely powerful. The dragon claws were illusory, and Articuno was knocked into the ground with one claw. This was the first time that Charizard had the upper hand since the battle, and it also represented a reversal of the situation. At this moment, Charizard was really angry. It was originally the master, playing with you, but just now he was fooled. In this case, let's go all out. Since his trainer left, it has never fought with all its strength. If you want to fight, I will fight. A dragon roar shook the earth, and even the Charizards in Charizard Valley felt a little fear in their hearts. They knew that the real overlord of Charizard Valley was angry. Zahoo's expression was extremely solemn. He knew that the next battle he would face was the real battle, and it was also the beginning of the real transformation of Articuno. Zahoo and Articuno, the will of one person and one pet, were completely unified. Articuno flew up again, with a firm look in his eyes. It felt the power of the Charizard in front of it, and therefore it was even more necessary to defeat it. The wings vibrated, so fast that it was slightly beyond the human eyesight, and ice and snow flew in the sky, as if it was the cold winter season. The Overlord Charizard didn't care, and sprayed out a mouthful of flames, melting the ice and snow around it. It was not a mythical beast, and had no special abilities, but not being a mythical beast did not mean that it could not beat a mythical beast. In the final analysis, they were just Pokémon. The so-called special abilities were not much superior to characteristics. Once, under the leadership of its master, it had fought against mythical beasts. The wings of the overlord Charizard vibrated, and the flames blazed. Then the whole dragon was bathed in flames, fighting in a blaze. The ice and snow around it had no effect on it. Humans commanding Pokémon to fight has been around since the beginning of time, as if it has been around since the existence of humans. Therefore, many fighting tricks have the same purpose. Zahu invented the fire dance, based on Zyos's return punch shield, and Charizard's master also has similar tricks. Charizard flapped its wings and soared, with an invincible attitude, and swooped down on Articuno. Articuno wanted to dodge, but was still caught, and spewed out a raging flame. Articuno had nowhere to hide, but suddenly a layer of faint light appeared on his body, like a shield. When the flames came, it doubled and bounced back to Charizard, shaking Charizard away. Mirror reflection. Take damage, return it twice. Articuno flapped its wings and soared, with ice and snow flashing on its body. It wanted to chase after the enemy, but before it could kill him, the Charizard on the ground flew up again. Although it had the damage left by its previous attack, it still did not cause much damage to its strength. Both its defense and physical strength were amazingly strong. Charizard swooped down, and spewed flames from its mouth, as if it had not learned any lesson from the previous battle. Articuno also used mirror reflection again, doubling its rebound, and Charizard was still beaten back. Then Charizard rushed over again at high speed, with flames bursting from its mouth, and it still did not believe in evil. Articuno used mirror reflection again, but this time, its face showed a trace of pain, and Charizard was attacked by its own double flames, but it did not retreat again, but forced a breakthrough, and then used its steel wings to knock Articuno into the rock wall. What's going on? It was clearly Articuno who used mirror reflection. Shouldn't Articuno have won? Why is Charizard in a better situation? Kajiro said with a puzzled look. Because mirror reflection itself has to bear damage in order to return it twice. And Charizard's ability to withstand fire is higher than Articuno's, plus its strength. So even if mirror reflection returns twice, Charizard is still stronger. Kona explained to Kajiro and Meowth with a serious face. It's so strong. Kajiro was shocked. This is the strength of the main pet of the strongest person in the Dragon Clan of the previous generation. We should actually be thankful that Charizard fights independently. If there was a trainer, it would have dodged it just now, instead of letting its temper take 2 mirror reflections. Kona said that her Pokémon could restrain Do, because everyone's strength was about the same, but looking at the Dragonite in front of her, she could only shake her head. She was not good enough. Mirror reflection can be avoided? Meowth said in disbelief. Why not? Mirror reflection is to bounce back the opponent's attack. Because the opponent is attacking, the body is often limited and cannot bounce back. But if you know it in advance, so you can control the power, there is nothing wrong. Kona said. Then why hasn't the boss spoken yet to give orders? Kajiro asked curiously. Who said he didn't? He and Articuno have formed a strange relationship at the moment. Their hearts are together, so Articuno knows what he means without speaking. Kona said. What kind of power is this? Wave Guide? Does the boss also have this ability? Kajiro asked curiously. Maybe, the power of Wave Guide has never relied on personal efforts, but genes. Zyos has it, and maybe he has it too. However, communicating with Pokémon without using a mouth is not limited to Wave Guide. The Battle Lord Lilla in the Battle Tower does not have Wave Guide, but can't she also give orders without using a mouth? Kona said. Then what should we do next? If the boss loses, will we be stars? Meowth said. If you want to be a star, you can go. Kona smiled slightly. Although Meow Meow panicked, she was not stupid. Seeing Kona's calmness, she knew that the situation was not as critical as she thought. She immediately showed a flattering smile and said, Boss lady, if the boss loses, do you have any way to protect yourself? What self-protection is there? If you lose, you lose. It's just a Pokémon battle. Who hasn't lost before? Are you really worried that Charizard will kill you? Kona said. That's right. Meow Meow nodded. In this case, why should I panic? Kona smiled and said nothing more. She just looked at Zahu with a hint of worry. This battle was not easy. Although it didn't matter if she lost, she had just contacted Do, and it was estimated that Do would come soon, but it would be better to win. If they won this battle, the champion of Kanto could really be born. Do also came to Charizard Valley that year. She didn't know the specific process, but she knew that Do didn't break through Charizard Valley, but was trained. Not far away, a man and a woman were riding Dragonite and Charizard respectively, and rushing towards the Charizard Valley at high speed. Needless to say, the one on Dragonite was Do, and the girl on Charizard was GK, the administrator of the Charizard Valley. Before they got close to the Charizard Valley, Do and GK saw the battle between Charizard and Articuno. One bird controlled ice and snow, as if the ice god had descended, and the other dragon was spitting fire all over its body, shaking the sky over the Charizard Valley. How is it possible? Even this Charizard came out, GK said in shock. She was out buying some things for Charizard, but she received a call from Do saying that someone was fighting against the Charizard tribe. Her first reaction was disbelief, and her second reaction was who was looking for death. However, since Do had notified her, she naturally rushed over quickly, but who knew that the first thing she saw when she came here was this Charizard fighting. As the administrator of the Charizard Valley, she naturally knew the origin and strength of this Charizard. It was really hard to imagine what kind of enemy would make this Charizard go all out to fight. Is there a Pokémon that is stronger than the rest of the Charizards in Charizard Valley? Nothing is impossible. That kid has a good talent and is lucky. He actually subdued the 3 sacred birds. It's not incredible to have such a battle, Do said. He happened to be not far from here, and came here after receiving the power from Kona. However, even he didn't expect that Zahu would really fight against the Charizards of the entire Charizard Valley and finally call out this ancestor. Watching the fierce battle between Charizard and Articuno, Do also subconsciously became excited. He also wanted to fight, especially this Charizard. When he came to Charizard Valley, he had just won the Quartz Championship and was full of pride. He came here to practice at the age of 11, and then he was trained by this group of Charizards. Although in the end, he and his Charizard had reached the top 10, but still failed to break through. Now Zahu may be able to do something he wanted to do back then. Chapter 157, The Glory of Articuno. Articuno, Spin. Zahu was unaware of the exchange between Kona and Meowth, or the conversation between Watari and GK in the distance. He was fully immersed in the battle. Kona guessed correctly. Although he had not spoken yet, he was indeed commanding Articuno. The bond between him and Articuno had evolved again. However, they did not communicate with Wavagites, but with Articuno's mind's eye. In Pokémon battles, the effect of the mind's eye is the same as that of lock-on. If you use a mind's eye in one round, you will definitely hit in the next round. In the game, it also directly puts the opponent into a locked state. But the principle is different. Locking is to leave mark on the opponent, and then the next round of attack will directly attack that mark, similar to a tracking missile. The mind's eye, on the other hand, is to feel the opponent's movements in advance and then attack. It is equivalent to a prediction of a sure hit, and it is even somewhat close to the psychic system's prediction of the future. But when used on the mythical beast Articuno, the effect is different. In normal times, it can even listen to the thoughts deep in the hearts of humans. Just like the first time he met Zahu, as their bond deepened, especially the desperate situation on Asia Island last time, it became possible for it and Zahu to communicate without words. Under the strong pressure of Charizard, this possibility became a reality. Although it did not enhance Articuno's power like that day, communicating directly with the heart is undoubtedly more beneficial to the battle, especially in the grasp of the fighter's opportunity. Zahu let Articuno use the Eye of the Heart all the time, not to make sure that the next trick can attack Charizard, but to predict the opponent's next move and then dodge. In Pokémon duels, offensive and defensive tricks are never fixed. It does not mean that an offensive trick can only be used for attack. If it really holds such a naive idea, then it can only mean that it is at most an ordinary trainer. Under the judgment of the Eye of the Heart, Zahu and Articuno once again avoided Charizard's attack, passed by Charizard sideways, and then spit out the freezing ray, using the force to spray half of Charizard's body. Charizard roared in pain. It was enjoying the fight more and more, but it was getting angrier and angrier as it was being beaten so hard. It was obviously stronger and faster than the other party, but it couldn't attack because the other party was more numerous and faster. A strong light suddenly burst out from its tail, and at the moment when Articuno was about to completely miss it, it hit Articuno. Articuno felt pain and was directly hit on the rock wall, even making a small hole. The steel-type Iron Tail just restrained the ice-type Articuno. Originally, Charizard didn't plan to use this move because it was too dangerous. The symbol of Charizard's life and power was the flame on its tail. If this move couldn't hurt the opponent immediately, and the opponent seized the opportunity and extinguished the flame with a trick like a water gun, then Charizard would most likely die directly. So although it learned this move, Charizard rarely used it, and its master basically wouldn't let it use it. But just now it felt that if it didn't use it, it would take a long time, so it rushed and used it. Fortunately, the result was good. In this case, there is no need to fight next. The flames at the tail of Charizard suddenly burned fiercely, and then the whole dragon's body burst into a strong red light. The blazing and bursting temperature burst out from it, and the remaining ice and snow around it melted again. Before the attack was officially launched, there was such a terrible sign. Charizard opened its mouth wide, and a powerful energy column of fire suddenly burst out, attacking as if it was destroying the world. Burned to ashes. Articuno was injured at this moment, and fell into the rock wall. He couldn't avoid it at all. He could only watch this powerful column of fire coming at him. There was no way to avoid it. Zahu was extremely anxious, but there was no way at all. Pokémon trainers only help Pokémon in two ways: give enough training to improve their strength in normal times, and provide correct tactical command during battles. In addition to these two, Pokémon trainers can do nothing else. Just watching Charizard burn out, Zahu felt a strong sense of unwillingness in his heart. He didn't want to fail like this. Articuno in the rock wall was completely powerless at this moment, and almost completely lost its fighting ability. It could no longer move. Looking at Charizard's burning, its eyes were full of unwillingness. It didn't want to fall down. It wanted to become stronger, continue to beat the other two stupid birds, and then replace the ice stupid bird on Asia Island as the god of ice. At this moment, Zahu and Articuno's unwilling hearts were perfectly integrated together. The strange feeling on Asia Island rose again, and it was even stronger. At this moment, Zahu felt that there was no barrier between him and Articuno. He was Articuno, and Articuno was him. There are thousands of descriptions, but it really happened. But it was just a moment of skill. At this moment, Charizard's burning was strong and sprayed. Everyone present, whether it was Charizard or Kona, felt that Articuno could not escape. Burning bombarded the ground, erupting with powerful energy, and stirring up a large piece of flying sand. When the smoke and dust cleared, Articuno was not there. Before they figured it out, heavy snow suddenly fell from the sky, heavier than the previous snow. Another bird cry sounded, and a blue bat soared in the wind in the snow. Its appearance was about 70% similar to that of Articuno, but it was a little different. What is this? Kajiro said in surprise. Super evolution? Kona was surprised for the first time. It was very similar to Articuno, but it was different. She couldn't think of any other reason except super evolution. Super evolution, although it is still a phenomenon unique to the Kalos region, and only a small number of Pokémon can be super evolved so far, and more are still being studied, so most people in other regions don't know about it. Even most people in the Kalos region don't know about super evolution. However, as one of the four kings of the Kanto Alliance and a familiar figure to a group of doctors, Kona naturally knows about super evolution. But why can Zahu's Articuno evolve directly without an evolution key? And can Articuno also super evolve? Super evolution of mythical beasts, what is it? Kona was puzzled, but she was not impatient. She could wait for Zahu to finish the fight. Zahu was almost like Articuno at this moment. Looking at the Charizard in front of him, he no longer felt invincible, and used the mind's eye to sense again. Charizard felt something. Pokémon with strength, like it could sense it. It was not afraid. It had already counterattacked once. Although Mind's Eye was powerful, it could only predict the next round. If it was fast enough, it could attack before the Mind's Eye was used for the second time, just like before. So Charizard was fearless, and spurted out a big word explosion from its mouth. Articuno did not dodge this time, but was covered with ice light. It actually faced it head on and blocked the big word explosion. Then its wings vibrated, and a strong ice light came out of its body and hit Charizard directly. This time, mind's eye was not for dodging, but for making Charizard have nowhere to hide. Charizard suffered an unprecedented blow, and it seemed to have suffered an unprecedented heavy blow. It could no longer fly in the sky, but fell directly. Articuno flew excitedly in the sky, welcoming its hard-earned victory. Zahu also smiled. The last attack was from Absolute Zero. The power of the game causes fixed damage equal to the opponent's HP. Once hit, the opponent will fall directly into a dying state. In reality, it is not so scary. Otherwise, wouldn't the Heart Eye plus Absolute Zero be able to beat Arceus? However, when the difference in strength is not big, Absolute Zero is indeed surprisingly strong. This Charizard has been attacked by Articuno and reflected by the mirror several times in the previous battle. Although it is powerful, it has been injured long ago. It is normal for it to be crippled by one blow. Chapter 158 Super Evolution. That Charizard lost. GK said in disbelief. She knew exactly how strong this Charizard was. Yeah, this kid's growth is faster than I thought. Do's eyes lit up slightly. Zahu can be said to have grown up under his, or the four Heavenly King's eyes. But even Do didn't expect Zahu to grow so fast. When he first sparred with Zahu, he was defeated by Zahu's Snorlax, because he was careless, and looked down on Zahu. At that time, Kona proudly said that this was just the beginning, and the championship of Kanto was reserved for Zahu. At that time, Do didn't believe it. But now, he believes it. Looking up at the dazzling Articuno, Do's eyes showed a touch of admiration. Is this the super evolution of Articuno? Even the Kalos region has not yet researched the super evolution of Articuno. If Articuno can super evolve, then can his Dragonite also super evolve? That should also be, because there is no one to command Charizard. If there is someone to command, it won't spray so much flames. GK said, spraying so many flames? Why do you say that? Do looked at GK strangely and said, because the weaker the Charizard is, the more fire it can spit. The powerful Charizards in the Charizard Valley are not eager to spit fire, but use the strong power of their bodies. GK said, then you should watch them fight less in the future. Relying on the power of their bodies, do you think Charizard is a fighting type? Remember, Charizard is a fire type and a flying type, especially fire-based. Flame is the life and power of a Charizard. If a Charizard does not have a strong flame, it means it is not a qualified Charizard. Do said. GK frowned. Do's words were very different from her previous cognition, but she would not doubt Do, because he was Do. Do did not tell GK again that Charizard needs to have a strong physique, because only a strong physique can contain stronger flames, but flames are the essence of Charizard. Driving Dragonite to fly towards the Charizard Valley, Zahu looked up and saw Do, not surprised. Kona informed Do, and he also knew. However, the original intention of notifying Do was not to ask Do to rescue them after something happened. Before the Overlord Charizard came out, Zahu was very stable. It was because the Charizard Valley was the property of the Yulong family. They made a big fuss here, so they had to say hello to Do and give Do face. But he didn't expect that it would develop into what it is now. Although you told me when you came, you've done enough. You knocked down more than half of the dragons in the Charizard Valley, and the strongest one was also knocked down by you. You really overturned the Charizard Valley. Do got off the Dragonite, glanced at the miserable situation in the Charizard Valley, and said to Zahu, did I do something for you that you always wanted to do, but didn't succeed, or didn't dare to do? Zahu smiled proudly. Get lost, you have no reason to come to my house and fight my Pokémon, how dare you? Do glared at Zahu unhappily. Will he tell Zahu the story that he once sneaked back with Dragonite and beat up the leader of Charizard, but was beaten up by the Overlord Charizard later? What's so embarrassing? You should take good care of the dragons in your Charizard Valley. They fly around and practice special moves all day long and almost knocked us down from the sky. You are trying to murder the king of the Alliance and the Pokémon Doctor. Fortunately, nothing happened. If something happened, I would really tear this place down. Zahu said unhappily, you can tear it down, but Charizard is here, and you, Articuno, are strong. Can you withstand it? Du challenged. Zahu can defeat Charizard Valley in a single fight, but he doesn't believe that he can defeat it in a group fight. You said that if I tear it down, you are not allowed to ask me to pay for it. Zahu's eyes glowed, revealing an evil smile. Du subconsciously wanted to say yes, but he noticed the smile on Zahu's face and clearly felt something was wrong. Thinking of the scenes of dealing with Zahu several times, Du, who was full of desire to survive, forced himself to hold back the words he was about to say. This guy must be digging a pit and waiting for me to jump. How can a person be as blind as Ziba? No more talking, let's talk about your Articuno. What's the situation now? Du wisely changed the subject. Seeing that he couldn't trick Du, Zahu could only roll his eyes and waved at the Articuno in the sky. The Articuno immediately landed, but when it landed, it changed back to its original appearance. Huh? Why did it change back again? Kajiro asked curiously. Because super evolution can only be maintained during combat, it cannot be maintained at other times. Zahu explained. Boss, what exactly is super evolution? Is it evolution? If so, why did Articuno change back again? Meow Meow said with a strange look on his face. You two are just too lazy. You only care about the news in the Kanto region, and don't care about other regions. Well, I'll tell you about it. If Kona-san and Du think there is something wrong with what I said, they can add to it. Zahu said. Mega evolution, as the name suggests, is an evolution that exceeds the currently known limit of evolution. It is also called mega evolution or million evolution. No one has been able to give an answer to the specific principle. Some say that it allows Pokémon to temporarily release their hidden power, and some say that it allows Pokémon to return to their original state and possess the power they should have. But in short, after Mega Evolution, the power of Pokémon will be greatly enhanced. In addition, this kind of evolution is not a long-term evolution. As you can see, Articuno quickly changed back. According to the official explanation given by the Kalos region, once out of combat, the Pokémon will return to its previous form, so Mega Evolution is a means used in combat. Currently, there are only 20 or 30 known Pokémon that can Mega Evolve, but Dr. Platano of the Kalos region is still researching, and new types of evolution often appear, so how many Pokémon can evolve is still unknown. Zahu looked at Kajiro and Meowth's detailed explanations, and waited for their answers and questions. In fact, he knew more than that. According to the game in his previous life, a total of 46 Pokémon could Mega Evolve. But now it may become 47, because there was no super evolution of Articuno in the previous game. But the problem is, that it is super evolved now. How can I super evolve? Kajiro was curious. If it could evolve, Mega Mani, Mega Growlithe, Mega Venusaur, just thinking about it would be wonderful. Regular evolution conditions. First, you have to have enough bond with your Pokémon. If the bond is not enough, you can't communicate with your heart, and can't super evolve. Second, you have to find the Mega Evolution Stone that matches your Pokémon and the keystone you want to use, so that you can evolve together. Zahu said. Then where can I find the Mega Evolution Stone and the keystone? And boss, what's wrong with you? Kajiro asked curiously. Yes, this is also the question I want to ask. It seems that you don't have the evolution keystone. Du said, as the four heavenly kings of Kanto, the champion of Johto, the contemporary face of the Yulan family, and the special search officer of the Pokémon League. He is confident that, if Carlos relaxes the restrictions and releases the keystone, he will definitely be the first to get it, but now he doesn't have it. Besides, this is the evolution stone of Articuno. Is it so easy to get? Kona looked at Zahu. She also wanted to know this question. Because I'm a legendary rare situation in 100 years. Bond evolution. Zahu said. What do you mean? Evolution can be achieved just by bond. Du said. If that's the case, he simply doesn't need to evolve the keystone. He believes that his bond with Dragonite is no worse than anyone else's relationship with Pokémon. No, don't think too much. That was a special case that appeared in the ninja village in the Kalos region hundreds of years ago. It requires the Pokémon to have the characteristics of bond transformation. At present, it is known that only Greninja from the three major families in the Kalos region may have such a Pokémon. But the probability is not high. It is 1 in 10,000. As for my Articuno, I just found out now. It is 1 in a million. It cannot be copied. It cannot be imitated. Zahu said proudly. To be honest, Zahu still doesn't know why Articuno can super evolve. Articuno should not have the characteristics of bond transformation. However, Zahu didn't want to be dragged into the research, so he just made up an excuse to avoid some people in the alliance from getting suspicious. Chapter 159. Transformation. So what you've been saying for a long time is that you're awesome, your Pokémon is awesome, and others shouldn't even think about imitating you, right? Do rolled his eyes. I think what you said makes a lot of sense. I admire you very much, Zahu said. Shut up right there. Do said unhappily. TSK, stay away. Zahu said. Okay, stop arguing. Articuno has evolved, so it should be no problem to beat Dragonite. Otherwise, when we fight the Johto League this time, we can take the Johto Championship from someone. Kona said. That's a good suggestion. Zahu said. Come and fight if you want, but don't let Dragonite, who you won't see, beat Charizard down first. Do said with a proud face. Although he had seen the power of Articuno as the Johto champion, he naturally had his pride and dignity. It seems that someone left Charizard Valley as if he was fleeing. Are you sure Charizard can handle it? Kona said mercilessly, and his meaning was very clear. You couldn't even defeat the Charizards in the Charizard Valley, and Zahu defeated the strongest Charizard. How could you beat him? Do glanced at Kona and thought, is it really necessary to be so inhumane to the opposite sex? After all, we have been kings together for so many years, and we don't care about friendship at all. Kona seemed to understand Do's thoughts, and glared at Do, and the meaning was clear. Friendship? What? If it weren't for you guys, I would have been the champion of Kanto 5 years ago. Do rolled his eyes silently. Okay, I was stupid, talking about friendship with a guy like you who only has Zahu in his eyes. Zahu shook his head and did not join the argument, but looked at Articuno on the side and communicated in his heart. Articuno, do you know what happened just now? Ahu, how can I know something that you don't know? Weren't you talking about bond transformation just now? Aren't you? Articuno responded in his heart. Really not, at least not according to my inherent knowledge. As far as I know, only a very small number of Greninjas have the bond transformation trait, and you only have 2 traits, oppression and snow hiding. Zahu said. Why is that? Articuno also looked confused. It's just you and me, so I won't lie. In fact, among the Pokémon that I know of that can super evolve, there is no you, and there are only 46 in total. Not all Pokémon can super evolve. Zahu said. Could it be that RHUI, where is your knowledge wrong? Articuno said. This is really possible. Zahu was stunned for a moment, then nodded. It seems to make sense. What I know now is all from the previous animations and games, but games are games after all, and I'm now in real life. It seems normal for different things to exist. The official explanation of super evolution is to stimulate the potential of the Pokémon's body to explode to obtain a short-term evolution. So all Pokémon must have potential, that is, they all have the possibility of super evolution. In the animation, Zahu remembered that when Zyozzy accompanied the gym trainer Kon to complete the Mega Evolution in the Kalos region, it was the Lucario Evolution Stone that gave Lucario the power. So in summary, rather than saying that some Pokémon cannot Mega Evolve, it is better to say that they cannot find the corresponding Evolution Stone, so they cannot lead to Mega Evolution. As for the feature of bond transformation, Zahu always felt that this was just a cheat given to Zyozzy by the animation team, and there was not much value in discussion. But assuming that this is not a cheat, but something that can be reasonably explained, then will every Pokémon have the possibility of bond transformation? Zahu thought about it and shook his head. If so, then the Evolution Keystone and Evolution Stone are meaningless. By the way, RHUI, when I Mega Evolved just now, I felt a surge of power in my body. Could it be that you gave me the power? Articuno said. The power I gave you? At most, I can give you spiritual support, stimulate your potential, and let you fight. This is spiritual, and actual power is impossible. Zahu said. I don't know. I feel like you gave me power just now, actual power, and then guided the power in my body. Articuno said. I guided you? Zahu was even more confused. Could it be that in order for the bond transformation to succeed, in addition to the complete fusion of hearts and minds, the trainer must also have extraordinary power? That's right, isn't Xiaozi the only special case in the animation, a Superman? Zahu suddenly had a headache. There were too few research cases, and there was no way to draw a practical and useful conclusion. What's wrong? Kona looked at Zahu strangely. Zahu looked up and found that Watari and Jiken were comforting the Charizards below. Kajiro and Meowth were hiding on the side, and Kona was left next to them. Why? I have to hide it too? Kona said. No, it's just that the super evolution of Pokémon is really complicated, and it is really an unsolved mystery. Maybe one day, when I go to the Kalos region and talk to Dr. Blatano, it may be possible to solve it. Zahu said. Then we'll talk about it later. There are always many doubts in life that cannot be solved for the time being, and there are countless unsolved mysteries in scientific research. Don't push yourself too hard. Kona said. That's right. If there are no more doubts in this world, and there are no more things I don't understand, then I won't be able to support you in the future. Zahu said with a smile. Kona chuckled and rolled his eyes at Zahu. If there are no more doubts about the knowledge of Pokémon, then Dr. Pokémon will naturally have no way to make money and naturally can't support her. But when did Kona ask Zahu to support her? Kona once thought about supporting Zahu. Next, go to Hinoki City, give the GS ball to Mr. Yantai, and take the insect badge by the way. Zahu said. With your current strength, it's simply bullying to go to the Hinoki gym again. Kona laughed. The battle between Articuno and the Overlord Charizard just now was in the top 3 among the battles she had seen, even if it was not the first. How could these gyms in the Johto Alliance stop Zahu? After the fierce battle, it's just right to relax. Zahu said. Kona smiled and shook his head. When ordinary trainers travel, they constantly look for strategies and information to specifically restrain the gyms they have been to. But when it comes to Zahu, he relaxes. I really don't know what those trainers will think after hearing this. Zahu looked at the Charizards all over the valley and smiled. There are so many things in this world that humans don't know. Thinking too much will only cause trouble. Anyway, Articuno can super evolve, which is a good thing. Smiling, he jumped down the valley and treated the Charizards he injured with Do and Jiken. Unlike the previous rejection attitude, after seeing the scene of Articuno defeating the Overlord Charizard, the Charizards in the Charizard Valley all recognized Zahu's strength and did not resist. The world of Charizards is very simple. If you are stronger than me, you have the final say. It was not until dusk that the matter came to an end. Zahu and his friends started their journey again and walked towards the next gym. Poor Meow Meow's hot air balloon was made not many days ago. It broke just like that. Boss, you don't even let them compensate me. Meow. Meow Meow muttered on the way. They only broke your Meow Meow balloon, but we crippled most of the Charizards in Charizard Valley. The medical expenses will be more expensive. Okay. Zahu said. That's right. Meow Meow nodded. Besides, the quality of your hot air balloon is not good at all. It exploded casually. It's safer to walk down to Earth in the future. Kajiro said. Nonsense. My hot air balloon is of the best quality. This time it was an accident. Meow Meow retorted fiercely. That's because you didn't do a good investigation in advance. Kajiro said. Zahu shook his head, too lazy to pay attention to the two people bickering, and said to Kona, is there any place similar to Charizard Valley near the Johto area? You want to overthrow it again. But there is really no such place nearby. Places like Charizard Valley are not so easy to find. If you are really not afraid of death, you can go to the Yanmo gym to find that Dragonite. Kona said. Forget it, that Dragonite is the symbol of the Yulong family, not to mention that they are now cultivating themselves. Why should I go over and fight? If it weren't for the fact that the Charizards in the Charizard Valley are more arrogant than each other, I wouldn't bother to fight. Zahu said. Then you should just fight in the gym honestly. When the silver tournament is held, you can fight well, but don't lose in the tournament. Kona said. It's absolutely impossible for me to lose. Even if I play with my younger brother, I will keep an Articuno in the bottom of the box. Zahu said confidently. Speaking of my younger brother, I don't know where Xiaozi is now. Xiaozi? He should have just finished the first gym now. I just don't know what will happen when he gets here. Speaking of which, he just happens to have a Charizard. Kona said. Charizard? By the way, when we get to the next town, the Pokémon Center, call Zyozzy and tell him to be careful when he passes by here. Otherwise I'm afraid his Charizard will be killed. Zahu said. Kona thought about it and nodded. Earlier, the elder brother had just overturned the entire Charizard Valley, and then the younger brother came over. Isn't this looking for death? Chapter 160 Lucario vs. Giant Claw Mantis. Heading towards the direction of Hinoki City, at noon that day, Zahu and his 4 companions took a short break in a forest. Zahu released several Pokémon, and prepared to train them. Zahu let the newly evolved Haxorus fly freely in the sky, to familiarize himself with the power after evolution, especially the newly acquired ability, to freely control the weather. As soon as Haunter came out of the Pokéball, he took the initiative to tease Meowth, which scared Meowth so much that he hid behind Kona. Zahu glared at it unhappily, and Haunter floated over awkwardly to accept Zahu's training and practice his dodging ability. The last Lucario, Zahu was about to arrange special training for it, but its eyes suddenly became sharp and its whole body tensed, as if it had encountered some threat. Zahu immediately felt something was wrong, and looked around vigilantly. Then he heard a commotion in the jungle around him, and a light like red lightning jumped rapidly on the trees, and came straight towards them. Lucario immediately noticed something was wrong, and leaped up to a height of more than 10 meters. His right fist gleamed, and he violently struck the opponent. With a dull sound, Lucario fell to the ground again, and the red figure that attacked also revealed its true face. Mantis. As if it also felt the power of Lucario, Mantis took an offensive posture. As long as it thought about it, it could burst out with the strongest attack power. Lucario also let out a low roar, feeling that he had met his match. Zahu looked at the opponent, the evolution of Scyther. Although the overall racial value did not increase after evolution, it became heavier and could not fly high because it wore a metal film, but there were advantages and disadvantages. Compared with Scyther, Mantis's attack power was greatly improved. The sun shone on the 2 Pokémon that were confronting each other, and the appearance of the 2 Steel Attribute Pokémon was shining. Lucario, enhance your punch, Zahu said. Although he didn't know the origin of this giant mantis, since it appeared. Let's fight. Lucario's right fist flashed with white light, and attacked the giant mantis. At this time, a voice sounded behind the giant mantis. Giant mantis, come back. The giant mantis was about to retreat as he was told, but the drums of battle had already sounded, so how could it leave whenever it wanted? Besides, Lucario's speed was not slower than it, and it did not stop as the giant mantis retreated. Instead, it accelerated and attacked the giant mantis at a faster speed. The giant mantis could not dodge, and was knocked back by Lucario's punch, and its eyes became aggressive. After evolving into the giant mantis, its attributes changed from size bug plus flying to bug plus steel, and from the original 4 times resistance to fighting tricks to normal damage. So this punch hurt a little. Please wait a moment, we have no ill intentions, we just want to ask you for help. A middle-aged man walked out from behind a big tree. It was obvious that the giant mantis was his Pokémon. It's shameful to ask for help by almost sneaking up on you. I don't care what you want me to help you with. Just fight me first. If you win, it's easy. If you lose, you don't have to ask for anything, Zahu said. He was not surprised that the giant mantis had an owner. The giant mantis needs a metal membrane to evolve, so there are basically no wild giant mantises. It's just that, as he said, you want to help, but what does it have to do with me? Let's fight first. The middle-aged man seemed to have sensed Zahu's determination. He knew that this Pokémon duel had to be fought. He did not refuse, and said to the giant mantis, Zengzang, next, you need to fight seriously. Zengzong is the name of the giant mantis. Hearing the master's order, the giant mantis became more aggressive. It felt a strong sense of crisis from Lucario. This is a powerful opponent that can threaten it. Zengzang, use high-speed movement. The middle-aged man took the lead in ordering. The giant mantis's speed suddenly increased and approached Lucario. It seemed to have turned into a red lightning, so fast that it almost left an afterimage. Lucario, enhance the punch. Zahu still used the enhanced punch to deal with all kinds of changes. It can hurt the opponent in the end, and if it can't hit, it can also increase the power of the attack. Lucario threw a fierce and advantageous punch, and the giant mantis was able to dodge when it rushed over quickly. Masamune, split it. The middle-aged man's voice sounded, and the claws on the right hand of the giant mantis immediately shone brightly and smashed towards Lucario with force. Lucario did not dodge and was hit on the shoulder once, and his body retreated. The giant mantis stretched out its claws and took an extremely aggressive attacking posture. There was a hint of pride in its eyes, as if to say that this blow was to repay Lucario's punch just now. Lucario growled. Since following Zahu, he has not suffered much loss in close combat. Lucario, metal sound. Zahu said. After hearing this, Lucario's roar intensified, and then the original low roar became an extremely unpleasant sound. The giant mantis showed an extremely painful expression, and the original attack posture could not be stabilized. Zahu smiled slightly. Metal sound, in the game, simply reduces the opponent's special defense by 2 levels, but because this is real, the use of metal sound and noise is the same as attack skills. Because the principle of these 2 moves is to cause temporary damage to the opponent's ears through unpleasant sounds, and then stimulate the nerves. But the problem is that, since even the physical strength is weakened, how can it not cause damage? Zeng Zang, jump to the tree quickly. The middle-aged man shouted. The giant claw mantis immediately jumped up and easily jumped to the top of a big tree. Although it was wearing a metal film, it became heavier and could not fly, but the wings and genes were still there. For him, this level of high jump is completely easy. Looking down at Lucario from a high place, jumping to the tree not only increases the distance and reduces the continuous damage of the metal sound, but also if it is fighting here, it is more beneficial to the giant claw mantis. After all, the giant claw mantis can still glide and even fly at low altitude, while Lucario is a pure ground Pokémon. Wave missile. Zahu shouted. Of course, he would not be stupid enough to let Lucario jump up and fight with the giant claws. Although Lucario wanted to jump up, the trainer's order was more important. A light blue energy ball condensed between his fists, and then he attacked Masamune domineeringly. Masamune, take it head on. The middle-aged man said. The giant claws were on the top of the tree, with their claws crossed on their chest, and they took the wave missile head on. Their body and hands retreated backwards, and they were knocked into a tree, and then they offset the wave missile in their hands. Masamune, hold on, and then use the scissors cross punch. The middle-aged man said. The giant claws, which were originally in a crossed position, swung forward fiercely, and a light green cross energy attack emerged, and then hit Lucario fiercely. Lucario, close combat. Zahu's eyes lit up. He believed that his Lucario would not be worse than others in a head-on confrontation. Lucario's eyes were full of ferocity, and he also ran at a high speed, even faster than Mantis. He gathered all his strength at one point, and collided violently with Mantis's cross scissors. Like Mars hitting the Earth, the 2 Pokémon collided violently, and a powerful energy aftermath erupted. After a stalemate, Lucario's right fist flashed with light, and it shot out like a bullet, hitting Mantis' chest, knocking Mantis away, and crashing into the tree next to it. Mantis still wanted to get up and prepare to fight, but the wound on its chest made this action, which was usually easy, extremely difficult. Lucario raised his right hand and was about to burst out with a final attack, making Mantis completely lose its ability to fight. Okay, Lucario, stop it. Zahu stopped him. He just looked at the middle-aged man and saw that he didn't seem to have a Pokéball on him. If this punch went down and Mantis lost its ability to fight, the middle-aged man would not be able to take it back. After fighting for a while, Lucario's combat ability was also trained, and it was almost ready. Thank you. The middle-aged man said gratefully. He really didn't bring the artifact Pokéball. If Zahu hadn't shown mercy, he really couldn't take the giant claw mantis back. Chapter 161 Another uneducated brother. Nothing. Fighting with your mantis has also improved Lucario's combat ability, Zahu said, and then turned around to continue the previous training. I lost this game, but I still want to ask you to do me a favor. The middle-aged man said. Help you? I said before that if you lose, I won't help you. Zahu said. It was too much to let the mantis suddenly attack him for no reason and ask him to help. I'm really sorry for the sudden attack on you. But if we don't fight first, we won't know the opponent's strength, and it's useless to ask them for help. The middle-aged man apologized with an apologetic look on his face. My name is Muramasa, and I'm the owner of a nearby gym. My son Shingo is also a Pokémon trainer, and has a giant mantis. He was originally a very serious trainer, but later, he became obsessed with data, and thought that, as long as he analyzed the data, he could defeat any enemy, and forgot the meaning of Pokémon duels. That's why I want to find an outstanding Pokémon trainer to defeat him, and make him sober. Obsessed with data, thinking that as long as he has data, he can defeat all trainers? Zahu raised his eyebrows. This boy's a bit naive. Yes, he thinks that, as long as he collects the data of a trainer, analyzes the tactics and the values of the Pokémon's burst, he can defeat the opponent. He thinks that no one can beat his data. Muramasa said. Can you be invincible with data? Zahu showed an undeniable smile on his face. Is he the Pokémon version of Inusa Daharu? Analyzing the opponent's Pokémon data, and then analyzing the Pokémon trainer's consistent tactics, and taking targeted measures. It is indeed easy to win, but it is completely nonsense to say that you must win. If you follow this theory, then in Qianlong, Wang Yuan is not invincible. In actual combat, things change rapidly, and various tactics are coordinated, and the situation on the field is not something that can be summarized by simple data. The trainers, including me and the treasure housed in my gym, have been defeated by him, so I hope someone can defeat him and let him understand that Pokémon battles cannot be summarized by simple data. Muramasa said. That's right. Forget it. I will stay here for another hour or two. If you can bring him here, I will fight him. If not, forget it. Zahu said that, if Muramasa had asked him to explain the reason at the beginning, he would probably still go over, but now, you guys come by yourselves, fight if you can, and forget it if you don't. Okay, I know, I'll go back and tell him. After hearing this, Muramasa immediately ran back by himself, without even taking the giant mantis with him, and let it rest there. Boss, they suddenly attacked. Why should we help? Meowth said dissatisfiedly. It was frightened just now. Well, as a doctor of the Pokémon League, it is my duty to solve some problems of Pokémon trainers. Zahu said with a smile. It is because you are special. Although Muramasa's method is not very correct, it is not wrong for most people. Pokémon battles are commonplace. And according to what he has shown, after defeating him, ordinary travelers will naturally want to challenge his stronger son, to verify or improve their own strength. As for adventures, Pokémon travelers will encounter all kinds of weirdos along the way. Kona said. Zahu nodded. Pokémon travelers will fight with different people along the way. For example, when Zyossi just went out, he met a warrior who caught insects, and there was a passerby named Zyoming who set up a ring, and said 99 wins, becoming a roadblock. For these travelers who have just gone out, they can keep fighting, and then strengthen their strength. However, because Zahu's level is too high, it is meaningless to fight with ordinary opponents. After Zahu and the others rested for a while, Muramasa came back soon, accompanied by a teenager with a laptop, who should be his son Shingo. Dad, is this the trainer opponent you found for me? Shingo looked at his father and said. Yes, he is very strong. Dad has been defeated. It's up to you. It's time to verify whether your information is invincible. Muramasa said. My information is naturally absolutely invincible, and there is no need to verify it at all. Shingo looked confident, took out the laptop and tapped it, and Zahu's photo and data automatically appeared on the screen. Then he looked at Zahu and said, Zahu, 15 years old, the champion of the last Kanto League Quartz Conference, has the legendary Pokémon Articuno, and is a complex A-class trainer who is good at tactics, and likes strong attacks. Huh. The data is so detailed. Meow. Meow looked curiously, and said in surprise. Of course, in the past 5 years, the information of powerful trainers is all in my computer. With this computer, I'm invincible. Even if the opponent is a champion, it is the same. Shingo looked at Zahu with confidence and said, I know you are very powerful. It was beyond my expectation that my father would find you to be my opponent, but the winner of this game will definitely be me. No one can beat my information, whether it is the champion of the tournament or the 4 heavenly kings. The latter sentence was naturally directed at Kona. If I use Moltres, will it be very abusive and cruel to him? I'm not worthy of my status as an elder of the league, doctor, Zahu suddenly said. Sometimes, appropriate tough measures can help some young people better understand themselves, which is very beneficial to their future growth. Kona said meaningfully. Young people do not know the immensity of the world, so they need to be given appropriate frustration education. Okay. After receiving Kona's affirmative answer, Zahu smiled and threw Moltres his Pokeball. Moltres flapped its wings, and a hot stream of heat emanated from its body and spread to the surroundings. Muramasa and Shingo's pupils shrank. It was another divine beast, especially since it is a fire attribute Pokémon. You should know that both the bug attribute and the steel attribute are restrained by the fire attribute, so it is 4 times restrained. How is it? Can you beat it? Muramasa quickly came out of his shock and smiled at Shingo. He just wanted to give his son some frustration, so Zahu would naturally be as strong as possible. Of course, my information is invincible, Shingo said seriously. Even if the attribute is unfavorable, it's nothing. Like his father, he threw out a giant mantis and said, "Bree, do it." Like his father, Shingo also gave his giant mantis a name. Perhaps it was because both father and son were giant mantises, and if it was a giant mantis, he didn't know which one to call. Seeing that there was a Moltres on the opposite side, the giant mantis was startled at first, but after looking at its owner, a mysterious confidence rose up. Even if it was 4 times restrained, so what? He actually dared to show a provocative expression. Moltres was stunned. Is this little bug in front of him provoking me? Is it that your giant mantis is getting too arrogant, or is it that my Moltres can't spit out fire? Chapter 162 The boss is fun. Moltres turned around and glanced at Zahu. His meaning was clear. Where did you find such a weakling to be my opponent? And he is so arrogant. Can I kill him with a breath of fire? Show mercy. Don't kill him. The rest is up to you, Zahu said. Moltres nodded to show that he knew. Not happening in this game. I will let you know the power of data. Shingo strongly expressed his presence and then turned on his laptop and was ready to collect data at any time. Moltres, spray flames, solve it, Zahu said calmly. Moltres heard the words and slowly brewed flames in his mouth. He had just experienced a battle with the fire-breathing dragons in the Cherizard Valley. Now facing this giant mantis whose attributes were restrained by him 4 times, and whose strength was average, he really didn't have any desire to fight. Reaction speed 0.2, which is faster than the average Pokémon, but that's all. Bray, you are faster than him. Don't panic. Speed up and use lightning flash. Shingo looked at the data displayed on the computer and said calmly, then tapped the keyboard and said, after speeding up, use lightning flash again, which is 3 times the usual damage. Really? Moltres, the end. Zahu gave the order calmly, and then turned around coolly. A real man never looks back at the explosion. The giant claw mantis came quickly, and was about to attack Moltres. However, at this moment, Moltres seemed to come alive suddenly, and the flames suddenly spurted out of its mouth. The speed was beyond the first class, and the giant claw mantis that came at a very fast speed directly hit the flames of Moltres. From the outside, it looked like it was specially attacked by flames. A mouthful of flames spurted out, and then without suspense, under the 4-fold restraint, the giant claw mantis was defeated in seconds. It fell heavily to the ground and completely lost its ability to fight. Shingo's confident expression was awkwardly frozen on his face. With just one move, his Pokémon lost all its combat capabilities. Now you know that data is not absolute, Muramasa said. Although this was not what he had imagined, his original intention was just to find an opponent with similar strength to Shingo, so that Shingo would not only stare at the computer screen during the Pokémon duel, but also stare at the Pokémon in battle. As a result, he unexpectedly encountered an anomaly like Zahu, and was completely crushed one-sidedly. However, it is always okay to lose the battle. That's because Shingo opened his mouth to defend himself, saying that it was because Zahu's Pokémon was too strong, but he had said before that his data was invincible. No matter what the reason, losing is losing. Data is not absolute. In Pokémon battles, data is certainly important, but no matter how important it is not as important as the strength of the Pokémon itself. All tactical data is based on the Pokémon's own strength being strong enough, Zahu said. After beating his brother, he should show his hate side and not let him have the illusion that he is abusing him. Well, this is not the truth, because it is not important, so I won't repeat it 3 times. The strength of the Pokémon is the key. Shingo looked at Zahu with a confused look. Yes, in addition, although the data is very useful, it cannot be rigidly confined to your computer. Otherwise, once a fierce battle occurs, you will not have time to look down at the computer. If you really want to rely on the data, you should put the data into your brain and make mental calculations to estimate it, instead of relying on computer data blindly. In fact, when the battle is really intense, the combat values of the Pokémon itself will change subtly, Zahu said. The values will change subtly, but the Pokémon levels are fixed. Even in the battle, the values will not change, Shingo said. Although Zahu crushed him, he still couldn't be completely convinced by the data. Let my brother tell you about this. He should be here soon. Mr. Muramasa, if you see 2 men and 1 woman, with Pikachu and GP respectively, they are my brother and his companions. When the time comes, let Zyossi and your son fight again. Then Shingo should understand the relationship between data and Pokémon battles. Zahu said. Your brother? Okay, I will definitely wait. Muramasa said. Mr. Zahu's brother should be Zyossi, who lost to Mr. Zahu in the Quartz Conference and stopped in the quarterfinals. Shingo said that the level of the Quartz Conference quarterfinals is already higher than that of ordinary trainers. They can be classified as powerful trainers and will naturally enter his database. That's right. If you fight him, your doubts should disappear. But if that doesn't work, then you should just challenge the Johto League this time, and then you will know how to fight. Zahu said. Okay, I will consider it. Shingo said solemnly. I look forward to your growth, and I hope you can understand the true meaning of Pokémon battles. Zahu smiled, packed up with Kajiro and others, and continued on the road. Yuji from the Orange Islands, Kenji from Wakaba Town, and Shinji, who may come back, plus this one today. You alone have brought 4 players of the level of the Silver Conference who can enter the top 32 with good luck. You really consider the organizers of the Silver Conference and try to make this competition exciting. Kona looked at Zahu and said, I can't help it. Who told them to plot against me one by one? I don't want to, but there is nothing I can do if they are too outstanding. Zahu said narcissistically. Boss, you are really narcissistic. Kajiro muttered in a low voice. Nonsense, the boss is obviously understating it. How can the word excellent describe the boss? What kind of person is the boss? He is the creator of the world, unparalleled in the universe, the best in the world, knowledgeable, handsome, heroic, and spends money lavishly. As soon as Kajiro finished speaking, Mayomio loudly refuted, reciting dozens of idioms in a row to praise people. Not to mention Kajiro, who was refuted. Even Zahu, who was praised, looked at Mayomio in surprise. When did Mayomio know how to say so many idioms? Boss, I have studied. Mayomio said proudly. Okay, to reward you for studying hard, this month's bonus will be increased by 2,000. Zahu said. Thank you, boss. Mayomio looked overjoyed and bowed sincerely. An increase of 2,000 in bonus? Kajiro's eyes lit up. Did I hear it wrong? Boss, I'm sorry, I was out of my mind just now, and what I said was all lies. Your advantages are not just those few just now. You are a winner in life, tall, handsome, and rich. Not only have the strength to fight Pokémon, but also have a girlfriend as beautiful and gentle as the boss lady of Kona. Kajiro said happily. Okay, no more. I will get goosebumps if you say more. Your salary is also 2,000. Deduct 2,000. Zahu said. Ah. Deduct 2,000. Kajiro, who was originally excited to hear 2,000, suddenly stared at Yajing with an unbelievable and desperate look when he heard that it was deducted. Why? It's all praise for you? If it weren't for you to praise, your salary this month would be 0. Zahu smiled and said. Boss, I was wrong. When Kajiro heard that his salary would be 0, he changed from being crazy to a wronged little pitiful, with tears in his sincere eyes. It's useless. Zahu ignored him and walked ahead with a smug look on his face. I was wondering why I always felt like I forgot something when I was on the road recently. It turned out that I had to deduct Zyajiro and Myomio's wages. It's been a long time since I deducted Zyajiro and Myomio's wages. I had forgotten about this. As a boss, how can I not deduct employees' wages? Myomio also followed Zahu and the other person with a smug look on his face, walking coquettishly beside Zyajiro. Zyajiro looked at the complacent Myomio and gritted his teeth in anger. Licking a cat, you must die. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, Drought-stricken Juniper Town. Boss, are we about to reach Juniper's Town? Meow Meow is going to die of heat. Meow. The sun was scorching, and it was unclear whether God was playing a joke on Zahu and other travelers. The further west they went, the closer they got to Juniper's Town, and the hotter the weather became. Now, the surrounding fields and land were cracked in large areas, and the crops were dying, and looked like they were about to wither. Looking around, the surroundings were all desolate and bleak. Okay, it's just ahead, no need to be so anxious. Zahu comforted Meow Meow. Although he himself was also terribly hot, as the leader of the team, he still had to appear stable and calm at this time. Town. Are we almost there? Meow Meow looked ahead with difficulty and suddenly found a well next to him. His eyes suddenly lit up and a surge of strength quickly grew in his body and he pounced on the well like an agile cheetah. However, although Meow Meow was fast, someone was faster than him. He saw a black shadow passing by. Kajiro ran faster than Meow Meow and quickly rushed to the well, then found the mechanism for drawing water. However, just as he found it, he found that, when he drew water from this side, the water came out from the other side. Then Meow Meow opened his mouth and put it under the water outlet, showing a grateful expression to Kajiro. Thank you, Kajiro. Kajiro, who had obviously taken the lead, showed a helpless expression when he heard Meow Meow's words. Although he didn't want to, it was like this. What else can he do? He had to press down hard and draw water. Meow Meow opened his mouth and waited for a stream of clear and sweet water to flow into his mouth to relieve his fatigue. However, the water outlet surged and finally a large amount of mud was sprayed out, which poured into his mouth. Suddenly, the whole cat's size widened and the whole person exploded. He jumped up without thinking and kept retching. He thought he was drinking fine wine and sweet rain, but what came out was mud. Who can stand this? Seeing Meowth's miserable state, Kajiro secretly felt lucky that Meowth was faster than him. If it were normal, based on the recent relationship between Kajiro and Meowth, Kajiro would definitely taunt Meowth a few times, but because the weather was too hot and there was no water at all, Kajiro didn't even have the energy to taunt, and said to Zahu, "Boss, there is no water." The tone was as pitiful as a child who had no candy to eat. It seems that it has not rained here for a long time, so there is no groundwater, Zahu said helplessly. This is Inoki Town, where droughts often occur, so the people here regard Slowpoke as a god and pray for them to make it rain here. So, the Slowpoke here has a very high status, so don't touch it, Kona said weakly. She is a Pokémon specializing in water and ice, and she grew up by the sea. She is not used to this dry climate without water. In that case, wouldn't there be no water in Hinoki Town? Boss, let me get into the Pokeball, Meowth said with a desperate look on his face, and was even willing to get into the Pokeball that he had only been in once. You have a good idea. If you get into the Pokeball, you can isolate yourself from the outside weather. But I don't know where your Pokeball was thrown away. Zahu spread his hands and said that he had never really regarded Meowth as a pure Pokémon, so except for letting Meowth go in once, when he captured it, he always let Meowth out the rest of the time. So who knows where the Pokeball was thrown away? No way. Meowth lay on the ground like a dead dog. Boss, I can't walk either. Kajiro also lay on the ground, becoming dead dog number 2. You don't have to be so desperate. Zahu shook his head and threw out the Pokeball of Haxorus. Haxorus, you spray for rain, let it rain here, Zahu said. With a low roar, the Hackran flew up to the sky quickly. Its slender body circled in the sky. Large dark clouds gathered automatically, and then a large amount of rain fell. Water, there is water. Kajiro and Meow Meow raised their heads excitedly to drink water, but their excitement did not last long. There were commotions all around. Zahu looked from a distance and saw a puff of smoke and sand blowing in the distance. A group of town residents ran towards them enthusiastically. Is it raining? It's really raining. Is this the result of the blessing of the Slowpoke god? The great Slowpoke god. Water, a gift from heaven. Countless people ran over enthusiastically, like thousands of troops running, like an earthquake. Kajiro and Meow Meow were startled. Before they could react, they were knocked away by the enthusiastic group of people. They saw a group of people kneeling on the ground, looking at the sky, as if they were grateful. What are these people doing? Being knocked away was originally a very unpleasant thing, but looking at this group of people kneeling, Meow Meow's curiosity overwhelmed his anger. Pilgrimage, Hinoki Town is different from other towns. About 400 years ago, it experienced a drought that was enough to force the entire town to relocate. Then, when all the townspeople were desperate, a Slowpoke appeared, and soon, it rained here. So the villagers here have an extraordinary pilgrimage mentality for rain, Zahu said. Then they are kneeling down to worship Haxorus. In this case, boss, as the master of Haxorus, it is equivalent to them worshipping you. Kajiro said. Don't be ridiculous, I'm just a person, not a god, Zahu said unhappily. Humans can still worship Pokémon, which they don't have much communication with, but if they are asked to worship another human, I guess these people will beat themselves up. But in the eyes of these people, you are almost a god. The conditions here are bad, the drought is serious, and it needs rain. If you can really alleviate the rain here, maybe you will leave a good story here. Kona smiled. Hakan's strength is limited. With its strength, it can only last for half an hour at most. If it lasts longer, it will still be dry, Zahu said. So, use your Articuno. A voice suddenly sounded. Zahu and his companions were surprised. This voice was not from any of them, but who else knew that Zahu had Articuno? They turned around in surprise and saw a Slowpoke who was as tall as a person walking towards them. Meow. Slowpoke that can speak human language. Besides me, Meow, there are actually Pokémon that can speak human language, Meow said excitedly. Look carefully, that's his Slowpoke coat, and there's a person inside. Zahu knocked on Meow's head and said, ah, it's a person, Meow said with a look of disappointment. Of course it's a person. Besides you, how many other Pokémon can speak directly? If there are more, how can you say you are unique? The person wearing the Slowpoke coat took off the coat and smiled at Zahu. Long time no see, Zahu. Chapter 164 Ain God. Long time no see, Mr. Yantai, Zahu said with a smile. This old man wearing a Slowpoke coat was one of Zahu's targets for coming to Hinoki Town this time, Mr. Yantai, who was good at studying Pokémon balls. Yeah, I haven't seen you for a while, but I watched the live broadcast of you winning the championship at the Quartz conference, Mr. Yantai said. It's because a respected senior, like you is watching, so I can't lose, and win all the way to the end, Zahu said. Come on, you should save these good words for your teacher. You don't know that when your teacher became a doctor at the age of 12, he boasted to us all day about how outstanding his apprentice was, and we old guys wanted to beat him up, Mr. Yantai said with a smile. Zahu couldn't help grinning when he heard this. At Professor Oak's age, he liked to talk about the younger generation, especially an authority like Professor Oak who is unmatched in the academic world and has everything. Naturally, he likes to talk about the younger generation more. Mr. Yantai's granddaughter Kanhui should be an excellent Pokeball maker now. Zhihui did not talk about Professor Oak. The elders joked that he, a junior, was not suitable to join. It was better to change the subject. Mr. Yantai had a granddaughter who was only 6 or 7 years old. Zhihui had met her when he visited last time. She is still far behind you, and a little behind little Kona. But I didn't expect that little Kona would be kidnapped by you in the end. In this case, you must be careful when you go to Kaji Gym. The old man Liubo might make it more difficult. Mr. Yantai smiled and patted Zhihui on the shoulder. He and Kona's grandmother, Dr. Yujin, are equals and have a good relationship. He met Kona when Kona was a child, so he also called her Little Kona. As for Liubo, it was because Kona had studied and practiced at Kaji Gym, so Liubo always regarded Kona as half of his disciple. In addition, Liubo had no children, so he also regarded Kona as his child. If Zahu kidnapped Kona and went to Kaji Gym to get the badge, it would have a different meaning. It's okay. Anyway, I've met Kona's parents. I've met them a long time ago, Zahu said with a smug look on his face. Oh, really? Then when will the wedding be held? The old man should go over and have a few drinks, Mr. Yantai said. Kona listened to Mr. Yantai's words, and a blush appeared on her fair cheeks. She turned her head away shyly, but Zahu said with a thick face and a smile, sooner or later, I will definitely invite you. Looking at the two people who were talking very harmoniously, Kona's face became even more red. They were obviously talking about their own affairs, but they always felt that they didn't exist. To be precise, these two guys treated themselves as if they didn't exist. Okay, let's stop here for the reminiscence. We'll talk more about it when we get to my house. Now let's make it rain here. I remember that you have Articuno, and the three sacred birds have the ability to control the weather for a short time, Mr. Yantai said. No problem. Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, you three can come together. Zahu threw out 3 Pokeballs. The 3 bads danced and flew into the sky together. They all used the rain prayer at the same time. With the ability of Haxorus, the rain in the sky suddenly spread wider and the amount of rain was larger. All of a sudden, the whole town of Hinoki was irrigated by rain. Moreover, the rain this time seemed to have a strange power. The crops that had withered were revived and became full of business at an extraordinary speed under the irrigation of these rains. This is Haxorus, the 3 birds. The god of Haxorus, the god of the 3 birds. The residents of Hinoki finally saw the flying Pokémon in the sky, showing expressions of admiration and amazement, and then posed in a special gesture of gratitude to thank the 4 Pokémon in the sky. The god of Haxorus, the god of the 3 birds. Hearing these names, Zahu couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Don't give people random names, okay? There is a saying that Haxorus is the god of agriculture, and the 3 sacred birds have a special position. Although the 3 in his hand did not inherit it, don't just give them names casually. Yes, this is a unique name here. In addition, you will also leave a legend here. Maybe hundreds of years later, people here will say that there was no solution to the drought here hundreds of years ago. A legendary trainer came here and led his powerful Pokémon to make it rain and alleviate the drought, Mr. Yantai said. Leave a legend? Zahu was slightly stunned. Yes, powerful and kind Pokémon trainers travel around and solve the troubles of people everywhere, and naturally they will leave legends one by one. All Pokémon trainers who can leave legends are very powerful. Mr. Yantai smiled. Zahu was slightly stunned. It seems that it is true. Many places in this world have their own troubles, especially many of these troubles are caused by Pokémon, or Pokémon can solve them, so Pokémon trainers generally don't hesitate to do this when they encounter it, and even like to do it. After all, leaving a legend for future generations to admire and worship, who doesn't like it? However, he never thought that he would become a legend one day. Yes, boss, maybe in the future, people will say that you are a Pokémon trainer who can bring rain, or even a rain god trainer. Meow meow said. Rain god. Zahu raised his eyebrows. This title is a bit strange. Okay, let's go back to my house first. Mr. Yantai smiled. The drought in Hinoki town has finally eased, and he can put down the worry he has been carrying these days. Okay, let's go. I have brought the GS ball, and I will see if Mr. Yantai is free to make me a few special Pokeballs. Zahu smiled. The current Pokeball production process is basically the same, all of which are simple red and white balls, but there are still some masters who have inherited the traditional craftsmanship and use the previous method to hand make Pokeballs. Although this cannot be produced on a large scale, the quality of a single one will be better. and Mr. Yantai can be said to be an authority in this regard. The various Pokeballs he made with round oranges have various special abilities. For example, if you use the blue round orange fruit to make a bait ball, the success rate of capturing water Pokémon will be increased several times. In the animation, when Zyozzy and Zyaksha captured the little crocodile, they just threw the ball without hitting it. You helped Juniper Town solve the problem of rain, so even if you ask me to make more Pokeballs for you, it's okay. Mr. Yanti smiled generously and walked towards his home with Zehu and others. After walking for a while, Zehu and others soon saw Mr. Yanti's house. It was not luxurious, but simple and quaint, which also echoed Mr. Yanti's strict style. It's raining, it's raining. Grandpa finally made it rain. Zehu and others had just approached, and a girl of about 6 or 7 years old ran towards Mr. Yanti under the eaves of Mr. Yanti with excitement. Yes, and it was your brother Zehu who solved the drought. Mr. Yanti smiled and touched his granddaughter's head. Ah, brother Zehu is here too? And brother Kajiro, meow meow, and sister Kona. The little girl, Kyanhu, Mr. Yantai's granddaughter, excitedly said to Zehu and the others. She has always lived with her grandfather, Mr. Yantai. Although her grandfather treats her well, the age differences are after all. Kyanhu of course still likes Zehu, who is not too far away from her. Chapter 165 Round Orange Fruit. Brother Zehu, please tell me about what's going on outside. Kyanhu is very curious, and Kyanhu wants to be a trainer when she grows up. Kyanhu lay on the table and looked at Zehu expectantly. After arriving at Inoki Town, Zehu handed the GS ball to Mr. Yantai, which was considered to have completed his mission. However, just like in the plot, Mr. Yantai looked at the GS ball carefully for a long time, showing infinite amazement, and then said that he didn't know. Kajiro and Miyawa fell to the ground on the spot. If you don't know, then you don't know. Why put on such an expression? Cheating feelings. This is going to be dragged out and beaten. Although he didn't know what this Pokeball was, as an authority on Pokeballs, Mr. Yantai was naturally excited to see the GS ball. As soon as he got it, he went in to study it, leaving Zehu and others behind. Anyway, it wasn't the first time for anyone to come here, so let Kyanhu take care of it. Zehu and others didn't care, they were all familiar with this place. And Kyanhu, as before, would stick to Zehu and ask questions whenever she had the chance. Zehu smiled slightly. Children are very curious. He touched Kyanhu's head and began to tell her about the interesting things he encountered after leaving Pallet Town. Whenever she heard something funny, Kyanhu would cover her mouth and giggle. When she heard the thrilling part, she would be extremely nervous and hold Zehu's arm tightly, as if she had experienced it herself. Brother Zehu, when Kyanhu grows up, she will also become a trainer as good as Brother Zehu, and then challenge the gym, challenge the battle frontier, and become the champion of the conference. Kyanhu clenched her fists. Okay, work hard and move towards the direction of becoming the world's #1 Pokémon trainer in the future. Zehu smiled. Children always have high aspirations and are full of energy. They need to be encouraged. I will. Kyanhu's little face puffed up, looking serious. If you really want to be an excellent Pokémon trainer, learn a lot from your brother Zehu and sister Kona, especially sister Kona. They are both girls. Mr. Yantai walked out with a smile. The GS ball was now being put into the research device for analysis. He had nothing to do for a while, so he could only wait for the results. So he came out again. He happened to hear Kyanhu and the others talking, so he added a sentence. Then sister Kona, I will learn from you in the future. Kyanhu said seriously. Okay, but I'm only good at water and ice, and I can barely do a little bit of psychic. Kona smiled. Water, I like water Pokémon the most. Squirtle, Goldfish, Starfish, and the most beautiful water fairy. Kyanhu said with sparkling eyes. Okay, when you can have a Pokémon, I will teach you the tricks of using water Pokémon. Kona promised with a smile. I will work hard. Kyanhu clenched her fists. In that case, Kyanhu, you can take your brother Zehu and the others to the back mountain to pick oranges, and then I will make some Pokeballs for them. Mr. Yanti said. Okay, I'll go there right away. Kyanhu said. Do it now. Actually, there's no need to be so anxious. We'll have to bother you for a few more days. Zahu said. It's because I'm afraid that you will stay here for too long and make the old man poor. I'm not as rich as your teacher. Mr. Yanti smiled. Zahu and his men helped OP Town to relieve the drought, which also helped Mr. Yanti a lot. For him, sending a few special Pokeballs as a reward is nothing at all. On the contrary, this return gift is still too light. Zahu also understood Mr. Yanti's good intentions and didn't say much. He knew that people of Mr. Yanti's generation all have a stubborn personality. If you don't accept their good intentions, they will feel that you are alienated with him and make him uncomfortable. On the contrary, if you accept it openly, Mr. Yanti will be happy. Sure enough, after Zahu agreed, Mr. Yanti showed a happy expression. These are around tangerines. Because it hasn't rained these days, I was worried that they would dry up. Now they are finally fine and have regained their vitality. Kyan, who walked in front proudly, introducing everything about round tangerines to Zahu and his friends. Zahu and his friends looked ahead and saw a large orchard in front of them. The branches and leaves of each tree formed a pattern of two concentric circles, one large and one small, and were vaguely divided into several areas. Although the fruits in different areas were all round in the size of Pokeballs, they were obviously different in color. This is a pink round tangerine fruit. Pointing to a big tree full of pink round fruits, Kyan, who said to everyone with a smile, this fruit can be made into a love ball. If the Pokémon you capture is one you already own and is of a different gender, you can increase the capture rate 8 times. 8 times the capture rate. Kajiro's eyes lit up. This kind of Pokeball that has a great chance of capturing Pokémon without fighting is the best thing for him. As he spoke, he wanted to pounce on it, but before he could pounce, he was stopped by Kyan, who, there are only a few fruits here that can be picked, and the rest are not ripe. You must choose them carefully before you can pick them. You can't be impatient, otherwise if you pick too many, it will affect the growth of the round tangerine tree. Oh. After hearing what Kyan said, Kajiro embarrassedly retracted his steps. Zahu smiled, and under Kyan's guidance, he picked various colored round orange fruits. During the process, he encountered some obstructing Pokémon, but they were nothing in front of Zahu's Pokémon, especially Haunter's Hypnosis. If it weren't for Kyan's selection, Zahu would have wanted to let Jigglypuff speak. Finally, he picked all kinds of fruits, and then looked at the more than 20 fruits in front of him, a little embarrassed. You know, so far, only Mr. Yanti can make Pokeballs, and Mr. Yanti's efficiency is low, because they are handmade. Thinking of asking him to make more than 20 Pokeballs, he suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Brother Zahu, it's okay. If Grandpa is serious, he can make about 10 a day, so it will only take 2 or 3 days. If Brother Zahu is not in a hurry, it can be finished within a week. Kyan, seemed to notice Zahu's doubts and smiled innocently. After Zahu heard this, the embarrassment in his heart was slightly relieved. After returning, Mr. Yanti did not say anything, but took a few round tangerines to make Pokeballs. Take this opportunity to see how Grandpa makes Pokeballs. Kyan suddenly smiled. Is it okay? Will it disturb Mr. Yanti? Kona asked. To be honest, she was also very curious about how a round tangerine fruit that grew naturally could be made into a Pokeball that could hold Pokémons. Especially when there are only a few people who have mastered this inherited technology. Kona knew that Mr. Yanti was the only one in the city who could do this. No problem. Kyan stretched out her little hand and put it on her mouth. As long as you don't make a loud noise, it won't affect Grandpa. Then let's go and see. ZHIHUI was also very curious about the production process of round tangerine fruit Pokeballs. So everyone followed Kyan quietly through the front yard, the entrance and the corridor, and came to the door of a workshop-like building in the backyard. Kyan walked in front and gestured to ZHIHUI and the others. From this, it can be seen that she is a repeat offender among repeat offenders. I don't know how many times she has done it. Zahu was secretly happy and asked Zyajiro and Myomio to keep their voices down. Then he looked inside. He saw Mr. Yanti opening the iron door of a small furnace with a serious face and taking out a red hot round ball from the furnace with a large pair of tongs and carefully examining it in front of his eyes. That is the round tangerine fruit after processing. Kyan, who whispered to everyone besides Zahu. Mr. Yantai stared at the red hot round ball, not paying any attention to Zahu and the others. Maybe he didn't notice it, or maybe he noticed it, but didn't care at all. After observing it for a long time, Mr. Yantai turned around and sat down in front of a small anvil. He carefully placed the ball on the anvil, then picked up the hammer beside him and took a deep breath. Duang. Mr. Yantai raised the hammer in his hand and hit the red hot round ball hard, making a loud metal collision sound. After hitting it several times in a row, he took the ball to his eyes to observe it and then put it on the anvil to continue hitting it. Zahu only felt his eardrums vibrating, but because Mr. Yantai was the last one who was professionally making Pokeballs, he didn't dare to make a noise for fear of disturbing the other party, so he covered his ears with his hands and bit his lips tightly to prevent any sound. Looking at the round tangerine fruits being hit, he felt like he was dreaming. These round tangerine fruits were clearly picked by him personally. He knew their hardness very well. Not to mention hitting them with a hammer. Even stepping on them would break them. But who can tell me what the hell is that sound inside? No wonder Mr. Yantai didn't care about them watching. If this wasn't taught step by step, what's the point of watching more? I remember there is also a gym in Hinoki Town. Let's go challenge it first, Zahu said. There was nothing to see here, so he might as well get a badge first. Chapter 166, Hinoki Gym. Boss, the trainer of the Hinoki Gym is a kid named Abby, who is about the same age as Zyozzy, and he uses the weakest bug type Pokémon. Boss, you will definitely win. On the way to the Hinoki Gym, Meowth expressed his confidence in Zahu while doing data analysis. Don't underestimate the bug type Pokémon. There are powerful Pokémon of each attribute. Zahu corrected. Are there? Aren't the bug type Pokémon like Caterpillar and Hornet that can easily trample down a large number of Pokémon? They are so weak and pitiful. Meowth said. There should be a large number of Beedrills in the forest here. You can go and talk to them. They said that the bug type ones are very weak. Zahu smiled. Beedrills? Meowth subconsciously shuddered when he heard these three words. When he was at the Oak Research Institute, he was stung by a group of Beedrills because he was reckless and stole the honey of Beedrills. He was stung into the Pokémon Center. You're right. Trainers who think that bug Pokémon are weak are the stupidest. Bug Pokémon are the most powerful Pokémon. At this time, a car drove up from a distance and stopped steadily in front of Zahu and his friends. A young man with lavender hair got out of the car and said, "Who are you?" Meow. Meow looked at the young man and shouted, "I'm the Hinoki Gym trainer AB you mentioned. I'm the living encyclopedia of bug Pokémon. I won't forgive anyone who thinks that bug Pokémon are weak." AB got out of the car. "You're AB." Meow. Hearing that the person who was talking about him behind his back appeared in front of him, Meow felt a little guilty and shrank behind Zahu. "You are the gym trainer, AB." Zahu smiled. "My Pokémon said something inappropriate. I apologize for him. I'm Zahu from Pallet Town. I want to challenge you to a Pokémon duel." "I know. It's you, the late bastard." AB pointed at Zahu and said. "Huh?" Zahu looked confused. "What did you say, you late bastard?" "Yes, it's you. Do you know that it's been dry here, so I packed up yesterday and prepared to close the gym today. Then I just drove out of the town and it rained here. Can't you come a day earlier?" Abi angrily accused Zahu. Zahu touched his nose awkwardly. This matter seemed to be a bit embarrassing. He just packed up and prepared to leave in the morning, but he came back before he even left the town. However, this matter had nothing to do with Zahu, so Zahu said without any guilt, "If I had known earlier, I would have come a few days later. I will come over after you settle down there just now. You have to rush over and tire yourself out." Abi's expression darkened and said, "You can't get the badge like this." "It's okay. I got the badge by relying on my strength. You can't stop me," Zahu said. "Foolish man, haven't you heard that the one who conquers Bug Pokémon has conquered the whole world? Bug Pokémon is the best Pokémon. You can never beat me," Abi said arrogantly. "I have never heard of that. You said that yourself," Zahu said. "Yes, that's what I said. The authority on Bug Pokémon," Abi said it. Being exposed by Zahu, Abi didn't feel embarrassed at all. Instead, he directly admitted that it was he who said that, and he was extremely confident that what he said was true. Zahu's expression was a little dark. Is this guy a little obsessed with bug Pokémon? In this disharmonious atmosphere, Zahu and his group walked into the Hinoki gym. The Hinoki gym is more like a botanical garden than a gym. There are trees everywhere, and there are all kinds of bug Pokémon. Seeing this, Zahu couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, there is no Zyuksha around him who loses control and gets scared when she sees bug Pokémon. Okay, the gym competition starts from here. Next, I will let you see the charm of the bug Pokémon. Abby looked serious, as if he was educating a useless child, and threw out a Pokeball, saying, the first Pokémon I'm going to take out is the silent warrior among the bug Pokémon, the string ball. After the Pokeball was thrown out, a colorful spider the size of a palm jumped out. The string ball. Looking at the Pokémon thrown out by AB, ZHIHUI raised his eyebrows. The Pokémon with the dual attributes of bug and poison has good attributes, but its racial value is only 250. Physical strength, special attack, special defense, physical attack, physical defense, speed, 6-dimensional data. None of them are outstanding. Although ZHIHUI just denied Meow Meow's statement that bug Pokémon are all weak. In fact, among many Pokémon, the overall strength of bug Pokémon is indeed weak. Although the bug attribute is okay, not particularly bad, the combat effectiveness of bug Pokémon is generally worrying. Except for a few that can be shown off, the rest must be in groups to show their combat effectiveness. In that case, Haunter, come out and play, Zahu said. Haunter made a mischievous face as usual, and showed a funny expression to the opposite ball of string. A ghost type Pokémon, Haunter? Ghost types are indeed more difficult to deal with, but in front of bug Pokémon, everything can be overcome. Abby looked confident. Haunter, use a strange ray first. Zahu tried it out first, and did not rashly launch a general attack. Although in theory, bug Pokémon are weak, this is only a data theory. In fact, it will still change due to the difference in individual Pokémon. For example, in Unova, when Alice and Zyuguang fought, the Dragonite took 3 ice boulders, 1 ice fang, and 4 quadruple damage from Zyuguang's tusk pig, but it didn't feel seriously injured at all. It easily flew into the sky and defeated the tusk pig with 1 move. And in the previous game before that, Dragonite also took 2 freezing beams, 1 blizzard, and 3 quadruple damage, and the result was even more exaggerated, as if it was unscathed. Threadball, spit out silk, get out of the way. Upon hearing this, the Threadball immediately sprayed out a white silk thread from its mouth, which stuck to a tree on the side, and then used inertia to fly to the side, spanning 2 or 3 meters in a flash, successfully avoiding the strange light of Haunter. I see, this botanical garden environment is indeed the most suitable for these insect Pokémon to fight. Zahu nodded and said, Haunter, float over, have fun. Although the opponent's tactics looked very good, Zahu was really not panicking. He was very confident in his own strength. In addition, although Ghost and Poison did not restrain the insect attribute, they all resisted the insect attribute, so there was no need to panic with 4 times the resistance. Threadball, spit out silk. Abby still insisted on his own trick. Upon hearing this, the Threadball immediately sprayed out a white spider silk from the back of its tail. The Threadball's characteristics, which can spit spider silk from both front and back, also make it easier to shuttle back and forth in various areas of the forest. It can be regarded as a combat ability developed to cope with the wild environment. Then the battle was just the ball of string spitting out spider silk continuously, swinging back and forth in the jungle to save its life. Zahu's Haunter couldn't attack, but he didn't get discouraged. He felt like he was playing from beginning to end. He didn't get tired, but was happy. 1 Haunter and 1 ball of string were in a stalemate for 15 minutes. Kona couldn't stand it anymore, so she went to sit under a tree. This level of battle was really funny. She would rather watch Zahu use Moltres to bully the weak than watch such a scene. Meowth and Kajiro were more direct. They simply sat down with Monini, Jigglypuff and the other 2 to play cards. Zahu was embarrassed when he saw this scene. Actually, if he wanted to end the battle, he could have ended it earlier, but it was rare for Haunter to have so much fun, so he let it play. But now we can't play anymore, otherwise the friends will have complaints. His face became a little serious and he said, Haunter, don't forget, Shadow Ball will solve it. Hearing Zahu's words, Haunter also put away his playful heart and began to prepare for battle. A dark energy bullet condensed in his hand. It's impossible to win. Bug Pokémon are invincible. String Ball, dodge again. A bee shouted loudly. String Ball in the woods immediately used Silk Spinning again to dodge. However, Haunter, who had been in a stalemate with it for 15 minutes, was already familiar with its escape route. Shadow Ball directly predicted and threw it at String Ball and then lost its combat ability in 1 second. After swinging on the tree for 15 minutes, although it was not attacked, it was also tired. In addition, its combat and defense capabilities were not outstanding, so it naturally knelt down. Okay, come back, String Ball. Next, the proud warrior of Bug Pokémon, Metapod. A bee took back the String Ball and threw another Pokéball. Chapter 167 Happy Haunter. Metapod. Zahu's eyes widened. The String Ball before could at least maintain a certain speed in this forest, but Metapod. It's okay that this thing has a lower racial value than the String Ball, but the key point is that Metapod can only use one move to harden. The number of moves is not as many as Caterpillar, at least it can gather 4 special moves. In fact, the trainers who train Metapod usually wait until it evolves into Butterfree before fighting. After all, the time from Metapod to Butterfree is very short, usually about a week. Zahu originally thought that only a child as reckless as Zyozzy would fight in this form, but he didn't expect that this bug-type gym trainer would do the same. Haunter, Shadow Ball. Seeing that it was Metapod, Zahu said unhappily, "One move to kill it, let's go to the next round." Haunter grinned, and a small black energy ball condensed between his hands, but he was afraid of causing too much damage to the Metapod on the opposite side, so he took the initiative to reduce the strength. Metapod, use Harden. Haunter's Shadow Ball hit it hard, but Metapod didn't move. It was unknown whether it couldn't dodge it, but a layer of light appeared on its body. It took the Shadow Ball head on, and smoke exploded. Metapod was not killed instantly. Zahu was slightly stunned. How could this guy withstand it? Don't underestimate any Bug Pokémon. Bug Pokémon are invincible, especially when they have speed. A bee said proudly. Metapod, move quickly, then jump up and hit. Metapod immediately moved quickly. One corner moved quickly on the ground, and the speed was extremely fast among the speeds of ordinary Pokémon. Before Haunter could react, it jumped up and hit fiercely. Hollow. Metapod's speed surprised Zahu. He should have known that race values were all lies, but his powerful training ability prevented him from losing his composure due to surprise, and he gave the order calmly. Haunter's body immediately disappeared in the field, and Metapod only hit nothing. It's not surprising that Metapod can hit it. After all, it's just a simple hit. However, hitting is a general move, and is ineffective against ghosts. Metapod, always wait for the opportunity, and victory will be ours. Be encouraged. Haunter, use the most powerful Shadow Ball. Zahu said a little annoyed. Although Metapod's strength is a bit beyond Zahu's expectations, this guy is a bit too arrogant. He didn't even notice that Haunter showed mercy just now. As soon as the voice fell, a powerful energy bomb suddenly burst out from somewhere in the venue and hit Metapod hard. Metapod was hit against the tree by the force, and its eyes turned into circles, indicating that it had completely lost its ability to fight. Zahu's expression was indifferent. This was normal. If it took a particularly long time to beat Metapod, he felt that he would be sorry for those who gave him the badge. After taking back Metapod, Abby took out the last Pokéball and said, "It's been a while since anyone forced me to use my third Pokémon. You're really strong, but it's absolutely impossible for you to beat 3 of me with 1. Come out, the most gorgeous warrior of Bug Pokémon, Scyther." Shadow Green Scyther jumped out of the Pokéball with sharp eyes. Although he couldn't see Haunter, he still sensed the enemy's presence with his warrior's keen intuition. The last one is it, not bad. He finally looked like a gym trainer. Zahu nodded slightly. If it were just the first 2 Pokémon, the strength of this gym would be slightly inferior to that of the Cerulean gym. Scyther is also one of the few powerful Pokémon among the Bug Pokémon. The most gorgeous warrior of Bug Pokémon, show your powerful strength. Continuous cut. Abby shouted. As Abby shouted, Scyther turned into a green light and rushed towards Haunter. Although Scyther was only in the first form, his speed was much faster than that of the Claw Mantis. Get out of the way. Haunter's ghostly movement was light and weightless. Scythe's attack frequency was extremely high, but the swing of its sickle also caused the airflow around it to change. Haunter, who had no gravity, floated easily and was not affected at all. Hypnosis. Zahu said. Haunter dodged the continuous attack of Abi's scythe like the waves of the sea. After keeping a distance from Scythe, his eyes emitted a strange light, and strange waves spread from his body to the surroundings. Scythe, fly to the sky. Abi shouted. Scythe vibrated its wings, and broke through the lush forest in one breath, flying high into the sky, dodging Haunter's hypnosis. Even if the hypnosis waves were wide, they had a range, and Scythe's advantage in maintaining its original form was that it could fly high in the sky. No matter how far the range was, it could fly up. You dodge really fast. Haunter, use Shadow Ball. Zahu said. Haunter's claws, energy bullets condensed, facing Scyther. It naturally would not show mercy, like it did to Metapod. Haunter's Shadow Ball condensed very quickly. Almost the moment Zahu gave the order, it had already condensed, and then threw it to Scyther in the sky. Scyther, use Sword Dance. Abi shouted. Scyther in the sky heard the words, and its body immediately spun rapidly. The Shadow Ball hit its body, but was actually knocked away by its high-speed rotation, and hit Haunter on the ground instead. Haunter, dodge downwards. Zahu said. Haunter heard the words, and its body immediately floated downwards, narrowly avoiding the edge. It's so dangerous. This Scyther is not ordinary. It can actually use Sword Dance as a defensive move, while defending against the opponent's attack. It also improves its own strength. Kajiro looked up at the game, and said in surprise. He had thought that this Abi was similar to Sakura in the Cerulean Gym. Yes, spin, hit the opponent's attack back. Isn't this a counter-punch? In addition, it seems that the boss has also used this routine. Meowth was surprised. Monini Barley Monini and Jigglypuff also expressed surprise. Kona was not surprised. After all, he could open a gym, so he must have a Pokémon of elite level in his bottom line. The Johto gym had been inspected by Pia a few years ago, and there were no gym trainers who were too weak. Okay, Scyther, use the combo again. Speed up, before it uses hypnosis. Abi shouted. Scyther moved at high speed, turned into a green light, and rushed straight towards Haunter. Haunter seemed to be unable to react, and did not move at all, nor did he make any attacking moves. In the blink of an eye, Scyther's attack was about to kill him. Haunter, slide. Zahu said. After receiving Zahu's order, Haunter's eyes lit up, and his whole body sank directly into the field. Like a shadow, he quickly floated towards Zahu's shadow. Scythe cut the ground with training, cutting cracks in the ground, but it did not cause any damage to Haunter. Hypnotize. Fly. Zahu and Abi's orders arrived almost at the same time. Scythe wanted to fly, but Haunter's claws separated from his body and directly grabbed Scythe's body, and then his body floated over. His eyes released strange light, and a feeling of fatigue came over him, and Scythe immediately fell down in a daze. Okay, give it the final judgment, Dream Eater. Zahu said. Haunter floated on Scythe's body, and the black light flashed. After a while, Scythe completely lost its ability to fight. Chapter 168 2 Worlds. You win. You are strong enough to get the insect badge. I didn't expect that the ghost Pokémon has this evasion method. Abi handed the insect badge to Zahu, and said in surprise. Ghost Pokémon are the most bizarre among all Pokémon. If you dig deeper, the answer you get will be beyond your imagination. My command is just average. Zahu smiled. People's understanding of Pokémon is often simply limited to the role of Pokémon in battle. Although some people regard Pokémon as a tool for fighting, and some people regard Pokémon as a fighting partner, the ideas are similar. Therefore, the true power of Pokémon in battle cannot be developed. Some people even think that the abilities of Pokémon that are useless in battle are not considered abilities. But in fact, this idea is very naive and even ridiculous. Pokémon are living beings living in this world with humans. Their status is not lower than that of humans, and some mythical beasts even have higher status. The abilities of ghost Pokémon are the most special. Putting aside the battle, the abilities of ghost Pokémon are fully excavated, acting on the spirit, and directly acting on humans, and may even reach the level of the soul. For example, in the animation, when Zaozi and Pikachu were in Lavender Town, they were forced to leave their souls by Ghastly, Haunter, and Jenga. However, the things that were dug out were too terrifying, so many of them were blocked by the Alliance, and there was no need to think about the competition, so there were fewer people studying them. Only some underground organizations and very powerful people who were not easy to control by the Alliance, unless they committed major crimes, were studying them. For example, Kikuko once tried to leave her soul and sneak into the base of an underground organization, and then found out everything about their organization without the organization's knowledge. Then the next day, she destroyed the entire base by herself. Later, she even liked the feeling of leaving her soul and wandering around. Legend has it that in ancient times, there were even magicians who specialized in studying ghosts. But the bug Pokémon is the best. Hearing Zahu's words, Abby said his usual lines without hesitation. Okay, then when you capture a stronger bug Pokémon, come and challenge me again. Zahu smiled and did not comment on Abby's words. A person who is persistent may not become a top trainer, but a top trainer must have his persistence, even if some of these persistences seem stupid. I will. When the time comes, I will bring Scyther, Heracross, and Armored to challenge you together, Abby said. With Heracross and Armored, then, the battle should be more exciting. However, if you can get out of here, you can try to catch Vulcan Moth and Armored Warrior. Zahu smiled. Vulcan Moth and Armored Warrior, are they also bug Pokémon? Why haven't I heard of them? Abby was shocked. It was incredible. He was the encyclopedia of bug Pokémon. Because these two Pokémon, one is a legend, and the other is in the Alola region, which is basically isolated from the other regions. Both Pokémon are very powerful Pokémon, but one is a legend that is worshipped and difficult to catch, and the other has a bit of a pitfall and is too timid. Zahu said. As long as it is a bug Pokémon, I'm interested. Abby's eyes were shining, and he was about to find these two Pokémon to study. Okay, bye. Zahu decided to stop talking about this topic. It was a bit awkward to discuss it with a bug type Pokémon fanatic. Okay, let's go. Zahu walked to Kona next to him and held out his hand. Yeah. Kona nodded and held Zahu's hand. Zahu picked up the umbrella on the side, and the two walked out of the Hinoki gym together and stepped into the rain. The rain prayer used by the three sacred birds and Haxorus is quite powerful, so the rain in Hinoki town these days is not small. When Zahu went out, he deliberately picked a not very big umbrella, so in order to avoid being wet by the rain, Kona could only lean his body towards Zahu to the greatest extent. So, Zahu, who was walking on the road, only felt a soft body pressing towards him, and the faint fragrance of orchids and musk floated at the tip of his nose. How could the feeling in his heart be summarized by a word of pleasure? You seem to enjoy it? Kona's voice sounded in Zahu's ears. Really? It's just your illusion. Zahu turned his head and looked at Kona's beautiful face close at hand, revealing a naive and innocent smile. Really? But I feel that the rain is a little lighter. I think I can go out for a while. Kona's eyes showed a hint of wisdom. Is it lighter? No, it's your illusion. Zahu said seriously. Really? Kona looked at the light rain outside and was about to say that Zahu was lying with open eyes, but before she could say anything, the rain outside suddenly got heavier, and there was no sign of it. At that moment, her beautiful eyes glanced at Zahu. Zahu had a calm face and thought to herself, Articuno, you did a good job, come back and eat chicken legs. The Articuno in the clouds received Zahu's praise, showing a happy expression and dancing happily in the clouds. Look, the rain is not getting lighter, Sister Kona, the rain seems to be a little heavier here. I'll squeeze over to your side, Zahu said. Kona looked at Zahu, who was lying with his eyes open and could only show a resigned expression, leaning his head on Zahu's body. Seeing that his conspiracy finally succeeded, Zahu showed a slight smile on his face, and Kona, who was leaning on his shoulder, also showed a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. The shadows of the two gradually merged into a rain curtain, but Zahu's umbrella seemed to isolate him and Kona from the world. There is a world outside the umbrella, and a world inside the umbrella. On the other side, Kachiro, meow meow, Jigglypuff, and Monini, a group of 3 pets, looked at Zahu and the other person who didn't care about them at all with despair. There is a world outside the umbrella, and a world inside the umbrella. And they were unfortunately classified into another world, a world that was abandoned. Boss, have you forgotten us? Kajiro said. Don't talk nonsense, how could the boss forget us? Meow Meow retorted. Huh, meow meow, the boss is not here, and you are still saying good things. Kajiro said in surprise. No, I'm just telling the truth, meow. How could the boss forget us? He didn't remember us at all, Meow Meow said with a look of despair. He didn't even remember us, let alone forget us. Yes, the boss didn't remember us, Meow Meow, you must remember me. Kajiro looked like he was crying. Yes, Kajiro, you must remember me too, Meow Meow will definitely remember you. Meow Meow hugged Kajiro with tears in her eyes, and the 2 abandoned people hugged each other. Finally, Monini and Jigglypuff next to them looked confused, and then Monini used her best imitation, imitating the expressions of Jigglypuff and Meow Meow, hugging Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff looked confused, tilted his head to think, didn't understand what was going on, looked down at the microphone in his hand, and suddenly his eyes lit up. They must be sad to cry. I sing to them, they won't be sad. Thinking of it, Jigglypuff pushed Monini away, and began to sing excitedly. The song was melodious and beautiful, and very penetrating. Jigglypuff felt that this was the best song he had ever sung, but before he finished, he found that all the Pokémon, except himself, had fallen asleep. He was so angry, that his whole body swelled up. He pulled the graffiti pen out of the microphone with a sudden tug. Jigglypuff was very angry, and the consequences were serious. Chapter 169 Zixia Gang's Arrival. Barley. After returning to Mr. Yanta's house, Zahu and Kona's clothes were mostly wet, so they had to change at Mr. Yanta's house. Just after changing clothes, Zahu saw Jigglypuff floating from the sky in the heavy rain with an angry face. Zahu walked outside under the eaves with a smile, stretched out his hand to hug Jigglypuff, and touched Jigglypuff's head with a smile. What's wrong? Who made you angry again? Barley. Jigglypuff angrily told the story again. Okay, they fell asleep halfway through listening to your song, which means they don't know how to appreciate your art. Today, you just let go of your courage and sing. I will always accompany you. Zahu touched Jigglypuff's head dotingly. In fact, apart from the short combing, that Jigglypuff's singing makes people sleep, Jigglypuff's round body and pink appearance are actually very cute. Before Zyarksha knew about Jigglypuff's bad singing habits, when she saw Jigglypuff for the first time, her first reaction was to conquer him. Barley. Jigglypuff showed a joyful expression, rubbing the conductor's cheek affectionately, and rolling around on Zahu with his chubby body. Okay, I know, you're upset, don't express it like that. Zahu smiled, a Jigglypuff rolling around on him, always feeling itchy and uncomfortable. Jigglypuff didn't care, and rolled happily on Zahu. It had wanted to do this a long time ago, but before, with Railu around, it couldn't beat Railu without singing. Now that Railu has evolved into Lucario, it can't occupy Zahu, so it's its turn to occupy. Zahu hugged Jigglypuff with a helpless look on his face, but he couldn't do anything with this little guy. Time passed in a flash, and 7 days had passed. During these 7 days, the 3 sacred birds and Haxorus didn't come down, and it was raining in the sky, and it never landed, and Zahu kept playing with Jigglypuff. Zahu also let it sing a few songs during the day. In fact, although singing is a skill that can make people sleep, ordinary Jigglypuffs can distinguish between ordinary singing and singing skills. Otherwise, it is not Jigglypuff talking, but it is equivalent to sleeping. However, Zahu's Jigglypuff is really a strong exception. He can't control it at all. Once he sings, he will involuntarily trigger the passive skill, which will then become an active skill. So it has become a special case. Just like Zyarksha's Psyduck. Psyduck is obviously a pure water Pokémon that can swim freely, but that one is a landlubber, a fake water Pokémon. Zahu tried hard to make Jigglypuff overcome this shortcoming and not trigger skills during ordinary singing, but until now, the effect is still mediocre. Just like Zyarksha has exhausted her life's efforts and can't make Psyduck learn to swim. Excuse me, is there anyone in there? At this time, a familiar voice sounded outside. Zahu looked up in surprise. Is it really not to talk about people behind their backs during the day? Just when I thought of Zyuksha's Sadek, the trio came again. Without bothering Chahu, he walked out of the courtyard with Jigglypuff and opened the door. He found that it was indeed the Zyuksha gang trio. He first took the 3 people to the hall and then asked, "How did you 3 get here?" "Oh, it's like this. Isn't there a Cypress gym here? I came here to get the badge. I just finished the gym match and talked to Professor Oak at the Pokémon Center. Then I found out that you were here too, so I came here to find you." Zyuksha said. "Really? That's perfect. I asked Mr. Yanta to make me several Pokeballs made of round orange fruit. When you 3 leave, take a few." Zyuksha said. "Pokeballs made of round orange fruit. Can we take them?" Zyugang and Zyuksha showed surprise. Of course, they knew how rare Pokeballs made of round orange fruit were. "Of course, I didn't treat you two as outsiders. Since you call me Brother Zyuksha, of course I have to live up to the title of brother," Zyuksha said with a smile. "Thank you, Brother Zyuksha," Zyuksha and Zyugang said with sincere gratitude. "By the way, Zyugang, there are quite a few hazelnut balls in the back mountain. Do you want to try to capture one? I heard that you have always wanted to take care of some difficult Pokémon. Hazelnut balls are as difficult to take care of as thunderballs," Zyuksha said. "Are there hazelnut balls? Then I will go and capture them right away." Hearing that there were difficult Pokémon in the back mountain, Zyugang immediately stood up with great excitement and then rushed over in one breath, ready to capture them. Seeing this, Zyuksha smiled and shook his head. Putting aside the side of losing control when meeting a big sister, Zyugang is definitely a very good breeder. "Okay, tell me about your growth," Zyuksha said. "Brother, let me say first, I captured another fireball. I have now captured 3 new Pokémon in Johto," Zyuksha said excitedly, like a child who wants to be praised for his achievements. "There are already 3 of them, which are better than me. I haven't captured a single Pokémon yet. By the way, how many of your old partners do you still have?" Zyuksha said. "Only Pikachu, Riolu, Bulbasaur and Squirtle are in Oak Lab. I borrowed them once before, but the water Pokémon and grass Pokémon in Oak Lab got into a fight, so I had to leave them there. But Misty and Brock's Squirtle have also been returned to the lab, and with Crawl, Muddy and Quintero, they are not alone," Zyuksha said. "Is that so? Then I'll have Kajero and Kona's Squirtle teleported back someday and rebuild the Squirtle army in the teacher's lab to be the king," Zyuksha said with a smile. "That's great. The Squirtle army is reorganized," Zyuksha said excitedly. "It's the same. The most important thing is that Squirtle is not alone. By the way, Zyuksha, where's Charizard? Don't tell me that you stayed in Charizard Valley," Zyuksha said. "Yeah, I stayed there," Zyuksha said. "Didn't I tell you not to go there?" Zyuksha said. "But, brother, you also said that the Charizards there are very strong and powerful, so of course I have to challenge them," Zyuksha said. "So how badly were you beaten?" Zyuksha said directly. "It was miserable. I didn't beat anyone," Zyuksha said aggrievedly. His brother could break through the Charizard Valley, but he couldn't even beat one. The difference in strength was still huge. "You couldn't beat anyone?" Zyuksha frowned. Something was wrong. Zyuksha's Charizard was trained by him. Although it was not strong enough to dominate the Charizard Valley, it would definitely not be defeated by anyone. After knowing that Zyuksha was the younger brother of Zyuksha, the Charizards in the Charizard Valley were not in a good mood. They seemed to be stronger. Zyuksha said. "Ah, I understand," Zyuksha said. "So I'll let Charizard stay in the Charizard Valley for a while. After it becomes the strongest Charizard, I will be with it again," Zyuksha said. "However, if you do this, Charizard will definitely not become the strongest, because the strongest one in Charizard Valley was trained by humans. Brute force training alone is not enough," Zyuksha said. "Ah, then I didn't do it wrong," Zyuksha said blankly. "It's not wrong. It's the same for you. Your current tactical learning is not enough. Charizard will learn in Charizard Valley and grow faster than following you. When you finish traveling in Johto and have Hone, you can almost take it back and then further strengthen it and go to the frontier area," Zyuksha said. Zyuksha is indeed a little immature now. He didn't win the championship in the 2 alliances of Kanto and Johto. It's not the malice of the screenwriter, but Zyos's strength is really not good. Basically, he only does special training after losing, just like Zyos's newly captured Lilac. The flames are strong and the power is amazing, but if you don't burn the fighting spirit, you can't even spit out fire. Zyos he has always known it, but he has never overcome it. He is mysteriously confident, until he was defeated by a armored bird. Then he started to train Lilac, and defeated the armored bird. During this period, several of Zyos's powerful Pokémon have basically entered the elite level, and Charizard and Snorlax are even at the Quasi-King level. However, Zyos's own trainer level is between ordinary and elite. When fighting, he often has a flash of inspiration. At that moment, Zyos he is a complete elite level, and he is still a relatively powerful elite. But more often, he is just an ordinary trainer who is slightly better than a novice trainer. If he gets carried away, he will fall to the novice level. Then during the Hone period, he gradually learned to train Pokémon, corrected many problems, and entered the elite level, so there will no longer be the phenomenon of Pokémon evolving and being disobedient. Finally, after the end of SYNOPSIS, he can be regarded as truly entering the ranks of Quasi-Kings, and his strength and potential are recognized by Bamboo-Ran. After his own education, Zyos's strength is much stronger than that of the animation, and he is considered an elite level. Basically, he will not fall back to the novice level. Although because of the strength of Pokémon, ordinary elite trainers are not his opponents, but this cannot change Zyos's trainer level problem. By then, can I play in the frontier? Zyos he said with his eyes shining. He wanted to catch up with Zahu. Yes, but that's for the future. Now you should cultivate your Pokémon well, and then play in the silver tournament. Zahu said. I will. Zyos he immediately said with confidence. Brother Zahu, my strength has also improved. My Smelly evolved into Milotic. Now I have Gyarados and Milotic. I have the most ferocious and beautiful water types. Zyarksha also said excitedly. Evolved, that's great. I also look forward to your growth. Zahu smiled. While talking, there were suddenly a few bird calls outside. It turned out that the 3 mythical birds and Haxorus in the sky all flew down. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 The Secret of Praying for Rain, a gift from a small town. You guys are back. Are you tired? Zahu said with a smile. Articuno raised its wings and pointed to the high mountain on the side. Zahu looked in the direction and found that on the distant peak there was a pink patch, and there were so many slowpokes that they couldn't be counted at a glance. Standing there with a silly face, looking up at the sky, the whole body was flashing with strange power, and it resonated strangely with the clouds in the sky, and the rain could not stop rolling down. Have these slowpokes finally reacted and taken on the responsibility of being the slowpoke god? Zahu smiled. The slowpokes in Hinoki Town are definitely the most in the whole city. The whole town is full of them, and the holy place Slowpoke well here is even more overflowing. According to Zahu's estimation, these slowpokes should have come out a long time ago, and it's too late to come out now. However, now that they are out, the 3 god birds and Haxorus can have a good rest. You have worked hard during this period. Zahu touched the heads of the 3 god birds and Haxorus. The 3 mythical birds and Haxorus all looked up and rubbed Zahu affectionately to show that nothing was wrong. Articuno said in his heart, RHUI, it's okay. Our abilities have been improved in the thundercloud. Improved in the thundercloud? Zahu was stunned and looked up at the clouds above Hinoki Town. Hinoki Town used Slowpoke to make rain. It was Slowpoke that used rain prayers and infused telekinesis into the thundercloud, and then it rained all over the town. Originally, Zahu didn't take it seriously. After all, every place has some special circumstances. But after being mentioned by Articuno, he couldn't help but become curious. It was true that, although the power of Pokémon was strong, if you want to alleviate this severe drought, you can basically only rely on the creative ability of the mythical beasts. It is difficult for ordinary Pokémon like Slowpoke to make the rain last for a long time. Yes, that thundercloud is very different. The four of us have been in it for these days, and our ability to control the weather has become much stronger. Moltres originally couldn't control the weather, and basically relied on the rain praying skill, but after staying in it for so long, the power of his rain praying skill has greatly increased, and the power of his flying attribute attack moves has also become stronger. Articuno said. The power of flying attribute attack moves has greatly increased. Zahu was stunned. He was also a little surprised why Moltres stayed in it for so long, because Moltres' special ability actually had little to do with the weather. It was just because it could also use rain praying, so Zahu let it go up, but in fact, in Zahu's mind, Moltres was just making up the numbers. But he didn't expect Moltres to not come down for 7 days. Yes, we suspect that there is the power of the sea god in it, Articuno said. Lugia. Zahu looked surprised. How could it be related to Lugia again? Wasn't he taking a bath in the Orange Islands? We don't understand either, but it feels like this. The power is similar to that of the three of us, but it is more advanced than us. It should be the sea god, Articuno said. That should be it. After all, the sea god has always been the boss of the three mythical birds. Only his power is similar to yours and higher. The other mythical beasts that are stronger than you should not have similar power to you. Zahu looked thoughtful. Although the sea god Lugia lives in the Orange Islands near the Kanto region, in the game, he appeared in the second generation, that is, in the Johto region, just like the Ho-Oh. Moreover, the Whirlpool Islands here are devoutly worshipped. From this perspective, it is normal for the Johto region to have some power left by Lugia. In addition, Lugia is born with the ability to control the weather, and its attribute is psychic plus flying. Slowpoke just happens to have psychic attributes, so there is a reasonable explanation for Slowpoke to solve the drought, because it borrowed Lugia's ability. The three mythical birds can obtain these flying attributes to increase their own attacks. But which Lugia left it, and why did it stay? Zahu shook his head, unable to figure it out, and simply stopped thinking about it. He smiled and said, "You have alleviated the drought, and you have also received a power bonus. Just think of it as good people getting good rewards. In short, you have become stronger. If he really conquered the Lugia in the Whirlpool Islands, he might be able to come here to strengthen his strength." Yes, very good. My strength has increased again. HUI. Let's work hard together. I will help you defeat all human Pokémon and make you the champion. And then I will wait until the time is up to grab the ice god. Articuno said. When the time comes, I will also go with you and watch you defeat all competitors. Zahu touched Articuno's head and said, I will let HUI see it, and after I retire, I will find you again. HUI. By then, HUI, you should be very big and very old, but I can take care of your children for you. Articuno said. Thank you in advance. Zahu smiled and touched Articuno's head and said, go back to the Pokeball and have a good rest. Zahu took out the Pokeball and collected all 4 Pokémon. Then he looked at the Hinoki town outside, which had gradually returned to normal, and smiled. Finally, I'm no longer needed. In this way, we can start again. Brother, let's go together. Zyossi said. Go together? Zahu raised his eyebrows. He has never really wanted to go with Zyossi, because Zyossi is too troublesome and there are all kinds of troubles. Besides, if he is with him, he will worry like an old mother and age prematurely. Just when he was about to refuse, Zahu suddenly remembered the embarrassing thing, that he searched for Suicune in the forest like a fool for a long time, but couldn't even find the shadow of Suicune. This guy, although he is always causing trouble, he also has all kinds of adventures. Others are working hard to find the mythical beasts, but Zyossi is the opposite. The mythical beasts take the initiative to find him. In addition, when the big competitions held in various towns every few years start, someone will always be there. Once or twice is a coincidence. It is someone else's event, and you just happen to meet them. 10 or 20 times, that is, they will only hold it when they arrive. Speaking of celebrations, Zahu's eyes suddenly lit up. Next, it seems that there is a celebration in the town of Yezi in front, and there is also an animated beast there. As long as the operation is proper, you can join the team. No problem, let's travel together for a while. Zahu smiled. Only by following the protagonist can you guarantee that you will have food to eat. Okay, brother, you are finally going with me. Zyozzy said excitedly. Zahu ignored him and walked towards Mr. Yanti's room. He said goodbye formally before leaving. Are you leaving now? Mr. Yanti said. Yes, now the slowpokes have come out, the drought in Juniper Town has eased, and I should continue my journey. Zahu said. Okay, these are the round orange fruit balls you want to make, and I have already made them. Mr. Yanti smiled. Thank you, Mr. Yanti. Zahu said. No, compared to what you have done for Hinoki Town, this is nothing. Also, the townspeople gave you a certificate of kingship to thank you for your help. It has been sent to me. Take it when you leave. Mr. Yanti said. Thank the townspeople too. ZHIHUI said. Okay, let's go. I won't see you off. Let KinHUI see you off. When you play in the Johto League, I will take KinHUI to the scene to watch and let that girl open her eyes and know what it takes to become the strongest Pokémon trainer. Mr. Yanti said. ZHIHUI smiled slightly, took the round orange fruit ball and the certificate of kingship and left politely and then set out on the journey again. The residents of the town came out one after another and lined the road to see him off. What a beautiful scene. Zyuksha witnessed all this and exclaimed. If you can help them solve the drought, they will do the same to you. Kona smiled. Zyuksha learned Pokémon knowledge from her. She was half of Zyuksha's master, so their relationship was inevitably closer. Actually, it's fine if you give me the king's certificate. No need to be so polite. It's just a piece of cake. But I didn't expect that there would be a king's certificate. Zahu said. After all, there are so many slowpokes here, so it's normal to have a king's certificate. Kona said. Then are you interested in raising another Hippo King? Zahu said. No, I don't have much energy now. Unless it's very powerful, or I'm very compatible, I don't plan to capture another Pokémon. Kona said. Brother, sister-in-law, what is the king's certificate you just mentioned? Zyozzy asked curiously. Hearing Zyozzy's words, Zahu's expression was stunned, and Kona's face blushed. No one expected Zahu to call Kona sister-in-law. A trace of shyness appeared in Kona's black and white eyes. She glared at Zyozzy and said, who taught you to say that? Isn't that the case? Zyozzy said stupidly. A few years ago, my mother said that Kona was actually my brother's girlfriend. Then when we talked on the phone just now, didn't my mother say that my brother and Kona's relationship was confirmed and asked me to change my words? You are right. Zahu looked at Zyozzy with unprecedented gentleness. After so many years, I finally felt that I had a living brother. Zyozzy, the king's certificate is a prop for the evolution of Pokémon. It can evolve the hippopotamus into the hippopotamus king, and the frog into the bullfrog. Zahu explained with a smile. So that's the case. Zyozzy nodded. Bullfrog? It turns out that the frog can evolve into the bullfrog. I thought it could only evolve into the frog. Zyuksha realized it later. By the way, Zyuksha, I remember you have a tadpole, right? Here is a water stone for you. When the tadpole is cultivated enough, let it evolve into a fast swimming frog, but don't evolve it into a bullfrog. Zahu threw a water stone and said. The tadpole is a branch evolution. It can evolve into a bullfrog through the king's certificate, or into a fast swimming frog through the water stone. The difference in the strength of the two Pokémon after evolution is not big. It depends on personal preference which one to evolve into. But Zyuksha's is very different. Before the evolution, the tadpole can be said to be the main force among Zyuksha's Pokémon at that time, ranking in the top 3, not counting the burst of Psyduck, and even the first. And it is very compatible with Zyuksha. Not only does it take the initiative to keep up, but it also evolves for Zyuksha. As a result, after evolving into a bullfrog by accident, its temperament changed drastically, from a fighting faction to a funny faction. In the later period of the original series, it was just a cheerleader. In the later period, it had no role at all, not even in the broadcasting station. It was like changing a Pokémon. Zahu even doubted whether he had lost the memory of it. Therefore, Zahu decided to give the water stone to evolve the frog, so that its personality would basically remain unchanged. Chapter 171 Pokémon Exchange Conference. After obtaining the insect badge and reuniting with Zyozzy and his group, Zahu and his group continued to move forward. passing through a forest and arriving at Leaf Town. As soon as they arrived at the town gate, Zahu saw a large poster with information posted there. Pokémon Exchange Conference. Trainers from all over the world can exchange Pokémon and enhance friendship. Meowth stood in front of a poster and read slowly. Zahu looked at the content of the poster and showed an expression of as expected. I knew that with Zyozzy and his group, they would arrive on the same day at the right time. No time would be wasted. Brother, there is a big celebration ahead. Let's participate together. Zyozzy said excitedly. Participate? You want to exchange the Pokémon in your hand? Zahu glared at Zyozzy and said unhappily. That's right, this is exchanging Pokémon. I won't exchange. Zyozzy shook his head. His Pokémon and he have a high bond, so they won't exchange. In the animation, the only time he exchanged was when he just went out and didn't know much. He was fooled by a middle-aged gentleman and Zyao gang who had a short circuit in his brain when he saw the beauty next to the middle-aged gentleman. But he immediately exchanged back. As for now, they are all mature, so naturally they won't do it anymore. It's not just Pokémon exchange, there are other competitions, such as Kintero bullfighting. Kona smiled and explained to Zahu and others. Although she had never exchanged Pokémon with others, she had participated in such celebrations. After listening to Kona's detailed popularization, Zahu realized that his thoughts were a little different. Leaf Town is a beautiful seaside town. Its biggest feature is that it holds a large-scale celebration centered on Pokémon exchange at a fixed time every year. But since it is a large-scale celebration, it is naturally not just a simple exchange of Pokémon. There are also various supporting facilities, a variety of fun and interesting projects, and a variety of local snacks. Otherwise, not only will it be monotonous, but the merchants and vendors will cry, because the income from a few days of such a celebration is often equal to more than 10 days of normal time. By the way, boss, when you passed by the forest, you specially captured a Farfetch'd. Was it for this Pokémon exchange celebration? Meow Meow suddenly reacted and said, yes, because there is a Pokémon I like more in this celebration. I originally wanted to exchange you, but I happened to see a Farfetch'd on the road, so I captured it by the way to exchange. Zahu said. TSK, boss, you are not righteous. Meow Meow is such a good Meow Meow, but you don't even cherish it. Meow Meow said contemptuously. In the world, all Pokémon except you work for the protagonist for free, without paying, okay? You still have the nerve to tell me that it's best. When will your salary be reduced by half? Then come and talk to me. Zahu said unhappily. Meow Meow rolled his eyes, indicating that he didn't want to talk. If you dare to reduce my salary by half, I will run away from home. The group continued to walk into the town. When they reached a place, they suddenly heard several people looking ahead excitedly and shouting, here they are, finally here. Zahu and his group were puzzled and suddenly felt the ground shaking, and then a large group of Kintero rushed over in the distance. The scene was really shocking. Zahu was puzzled, and after asking someone, he found out that it was another special activity of the Pokémon exchange meeting. Whoever touched the horns of the Kintero would be the hero of Leaf Town this year. After knowing what was going on, Zahu's expression froze. In front of this group of running Kintero, touching their horns is something that only people in the Pokémon world can do. If it were in the previous life, I don't know how many times I would have died. I want to be a hero too. After Zyozzy heard it clearly, he immediately jumped up excitedly, and then resolutely looked at the Kintero opposite, posed in a cool posture, ready to touch it. But when the group of Kintero got closer and closer, he panicked and subconsciously jumped to the side, and fell to the ground. Zahu saw this, and shook his head. He was lucky this time. If he didn't know how to dodge, he would have been knocked away. But before Zahu could say anything to Zyozzy found another Kintero bull inside. He immediately rushed into the Pokémon Center and exchanged a Kintero with Professor Oak. As a Kintero master with 30 Kintero, how could Zyozzy miss the Kintero contest? Zahu shook his head and didn't follow him. Anyway, Zyozzy's chance of winning this kind of competition is more than 90%. Before the Unova region, Zyozzy's performance in the competition can be summarized in this sentence. I have never won a big competition, but I have never lost a small competition. Although this is a bit general and rough, It is not completely correct, but it is correct in most cases, just like Zyos' reverse attribute battle. Although he may not win, the probability of winning is greater than the probability of losing. He and Kona began to wander aimlessly in the Pokémon Exchange Conference. Along the way, they saw many trainers promoting their Pokémon, like they were promoting their children. Scyther, Claw, Nidoking, Onix, there are some really good Pokémon here, but I don't know if they are willing to exchange these Pokémon with your Farfetch. Kona glanced around and said, "It's okay, my goal is not these Pokémon." Zahu said, "Not these? Then what is your goal? You don't expect that someone will exchange quasi-gods like Kira and Ratani, or mythical beasts, in this place, right?" Kona said. In fact, she never understood why Zahu came to participate in this kind of exchange meeting. Not to mention the quality of the Pokémon exchanged at this exchange meeting. Wouldn't you be reluctant to give up the Pokémon you exchanged? Generally speaking, professional top trainers will not come here, but some fosterers and breeders will come, because they don't know how to fight with Pokémon. This, you will know later. Zahu smiled and continued to walk around here, until he saw Zyossi and a few others selling a Pokémon in the crowd. His eyes lit up slightly, he found his goal. Sure enough, Zyossi, what are you doing? Zahu asked knowingly. Brother, I'm helping Ad promote his Goron. He wants to exchange Goron, but the others don't really want to exchange, so we are helping him. Zyossi replied. Goron, it's a Pokémon of endurance. Zahu looked at Ad and Goron next to him. His eyes swept over, the luster was bright, the demeanor was very good, and it was well cultivated. It should be his target this time. Yes, I carefully cultivated this Goron. It's very powerful. Ad introduced. Yes, it's very powerful. Zahu nodded seriously, indicating his agreement. How can it not be powerful? This is the god of fruit. After a group of Pokémon in the first generation retired, this guy was able to closely follow the pace of Team Rocket, and appeared in animations of various generations, becoming a popular Pokémon second only to Pikachu and Meowth. The peak record was to bounce back an attack from Pluto Dragon Knight Latina. Even in the main storyline of the animation, it bounced back once Articuno's freezing ray. It definitely deserves the word powerful. Zahu came to participate in this competition for this Guoran Weng. Although this Guoran Weng would not have any great performance in the gym competition, it was still very useful in the wild. Maybe when he met a powerful character, he would let Guoran Weng come to fight. Chapter 172, Fruit God joins the team. Yes, it's very powerful, so, big brother, do you want to exchange with me? Ad said with shining eyes. I only have a Farfetch'd that I just captured. Do you want it? Zahu pretended to be indifferent. Yes, as long as it is different from the onion duck, I want it. Ad said happily. It was the first time in such a long time, since he came to the exchange meeting, that someone was willing to exchange Pokémon with him, and it was a relatively rare Farfetch'd. Then exchange. From now on, you will follow me. Zahu touched the onion duck and said. The onion duck seemed to realize his fate, and saluted Zahu, and shouted, so nasty it seems, that the onion duck also likes you very much. I have to trouble you to take good care of the onion duck in the future. Ad said. I will. Zahu nodded. He didn't have any feelings of parting with the exchange of Farfetch'd. He just captured it yesterday, and exchanged it today. Where is the feeling? The reason why he captured Farfetch'd was for today's exchange. Next, the two walked to the machine for exchanging Pokémon, and completed the exchange. From now on, the owners of the two Pokémon will exchange. Brother Zahu, goodbye. I really invite you to take good care of this Goron in the future. It is a very good Pokémon. They were about to part, but Ad looked at Zahu reluctantly. Since you are so reluctant, why do you want to exchange? Goron has been successfully exchanged, and Zahu asked his doubts. He really didn't understand why Ad liked Goron so much, and wanted to exchange it, especially when it was cultivated so well. You know, Musashi didn't even remember Goron's special moves. It can be said that he had never trained Goron, so the strength of this Goron was basically trained by Ad. Because I also want to cultivate other Pokémon, especially those that are a little aggressive, but my family can only raise one, so I want to exchange. Ad said honestly. That's right. Zahu nodded. He originally thought that only those trainers who were very irresponsible to Pokémon would come here to exchange, because exchanging Pokémon would hurt Pokémon. But seeing Ad's reaction, he found that he was wrong. Not everyone has the close relationship that Zyozzy and his Pokémon have. Most Pokémon have a relatively ordinary relationship with their trainers. Changing their owners is not necessarily a bad thing for them. For example, after the big tongue of Musashi was exchanged with the Goron, he did not react at all. And Ad is not a trainer, but more like a child who raises toys. When he gets tired of a toy, he wants to change it to a new one to cultivate. There is certainly affection, but he does want a new one. Especially, a rare Pokémon like Goron, that does not even have an attack trick, does lack a certain fun in cultivating. Finally, under the sunset, everyone parted ways and embarked on their own journeys. They walked to a forest and sat down to make a fire and cook. At this time, I have to say that traveling with Zyozzy and others is also beneficial. For example, Zyao Gang, who has completely evolved into a wife gang, has first-class cooking skills, which saves Zahu from doing it. At this time, Zahu also has extra time to train the newly acquired Goron and cultivate feelings by the way. Bringing the Pokémon food he had prepared carefully, Goron Weng smelled the fragrance and showed a very happy expression. Then he ate it in one bite and then looked at Zahu's expression with a bit of intimacy. Zahu touched Goron Weng's head and said, "From now on, you are my Pokémon. I will take you to various places to travel and see different scenery in various places. And do you want to enter the Pokéball or just walk outside?" Goron Weng tilted his head and thought for a while and replied affirmatively that he would walk outside. "Okay." Zahu smiled slightly. The answer was expected. "Okay, eat well." Zahu touched Goron Weng's head. Goron Weng saluted Zahu and was happy in his heart. He was very satisfied with his current life and looked forward to the future life. "Is this the Pokémon you have been preparing to capture? It's really a bit beyond my expectation. According to your personality, Goron Weng is really not suitable to be your Pokémon." After Zahu left Goron Weng, Kona walked to Zahu and asked in a low voice. Zahu's intention was actually very obvious. He could hide it from the uninformed Ad, the often stupid Kojiro Meowth and the trio of Zyozzy, but it was still very difficult to hide it from Kona. Judging from Zahu's performance, it was clear that he had captured a Farfetch'd in advance just for this Goron. But Kona, no matter how he looked at it, couldn't see why Goron was worth cultivating. A Pokémon that can't attack with any special moves is really at a disadvantage in battle. Although the return punch and mirror reflection are good, not to mention that such moves will first bear some damage, such special moves are not omnipotent. A few kicks can break it. Especially in Zahu's character, he has the same rare characteristics as Zyozzy, that offense is the best defense. "Didn't I capture a Meowth too?" Zahu smiled. "Are you putting the status of this Goron together with Meowth?" Kona looked at Zahu in surprise. Although Zahu and Meowth usually play around, in Zahu's heart, the best friends are definitely Meowth and Kojiro. It's a travel companion, but it's the fourth one, and it's always the bottom of the box. Zahu said. "Well, I really don't know what's its charm." Kona looked carefully at the honest and a little silly Goron Weng next to him, but still couldn't see what was special about it. Charm always needs to be developed little by little, and it's also a good feeling to cultivate a Pokémon that is completely different from the Pokémon you cultivated before. Zahu smiled. To him, Goron Weng is a very different Pokémon, and he has a special feeling, like conquering the protagonist. Even if Goron Weng has no fighting power, he probably will collect it as a mascot, not to mention that Goron Weng does have the ability. "Okay, it's almost done. Let's train first, then eat." Goron Weng, exercise your ability to bear and judge. Lucario, Hakron, Haunter, the three of you, use your special moves to attack one after another, and then Goron Weng, you judge what special move to use, and then fight back. Zahu looked at the time before dinner, so he simply did some training. Lucario, Hakon, and Haunter all looked puzzled. "Shouldn't we welcome a new companion to the team? Why do we have to beat it? This is wrong." "It's okay, just listen to me and do it." "And, Goron, you can do it, right?" Zahu said. So Nasi Goron shouted loudly, saluting Zahu, the new master, to show that he was completely fine. Lucario, Power up punch, Zahu said. Although Lucario was not very happy, he immediately followed the trainer's order and hit Goron with his right fist. Goron quickly appeared on Goron's body. Then when Lucario's attack arrived, Goron looked silly, indicating that it didn't hurt at all. Instead, Lucario's own fist hit him, and the whole Pokémon flew backwards and hit the tree, looking at Goron opposite with a confused face. Who am I, and where am I? Was it me who hit him, or was it someone who hit me? The other Pokémon were also surprised. What happened just now? Haunter, Shadow Ball. Zahu's voice rang out again. After hearing this, Haunter had to suppress the doubts in his heart, and condensed a black energy bomb with his hands, and swiftly hit the Goron Weng. However, Goron Weng's body burst out with strong light again, and then his body shook, and the Shadow Ball bounced back and hit Haunter. Haunter was immediately severely injured, even worse than Lucario, and fell to the ground, looking like he was dying. Lucario saw Haunter falling over, and silently moved a little to give Haunter enough space to lie down, then thought about it, and pulled Haunter to move a little more. There should be another dragon coming next. Finally, Lucario and Haunter lay under the tree together, and Haxorus cast a look. I'll wait for you. Seeing this, Haxorus felt cold, and suddenly felt a little desperate. What should I do? Not only are my teammates pigs, but they also expect me to be a pig. Chapter 173 Fruit Gods Training. Okay, Haxon, 100,000 volts. Zahu's voice rang out again in Haxon's extremely unexpected moment. Haxon glanced at Zahu with a bit of despair, and then a strong electric current burst out from his body, rushing all the way towards Goron Weng. The power of the electric current even broke the rocks along the way, which showed the power of this move. Obviously, in order to avoid being hit, Haxon also tried his best. Goron Weng used mirror reflection to respond to all changes, but this attack was different from the previous 2 times. He actually showed an expression that he couldn't bear it. However, thinking that this was his first day here, he must perform well, otherwise his position would be worrying in the future. He bit his last breath and bounced back the 100,000 volts while being hit by it. Haxon didn't expect Goron Weng to be able to bounce back even this, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes, but after seeing the fate of Lucario and Haunter, Haxon had an idea in his mind, so he flew up quickly, bursting out with an amazing speed that he had never seen in previous training, and then dodged it. As for the rebounded 100,000 volts, it hit Lucario and Haunter who were watching the show behind Haxorus, electrocuting them and making them numb. Both Pokémon had circles in their eyes. Seeing the miserable state of Lucario and Haunter, Haxorus immediately showed a smug smile and flew in the sky with joy. This scene was beyond Zahu's expectations. Seeing Haxorus showing a strange expression, Haxorus's strength was slightly higher than he imagined. According to the strength shown in the usual training, Haxorus is only the middle level among the elite Pokémon, but the lightning strike and speed just now are clearly very close to the Qua-seeking. So this guy must have concealed his weakness in the usual training. This is normal. After all, it has the blood of the super ancient Dragonite, and it is an absolute divine beast. Even if it has not evolved to the final stage, it should not only have the strength shown in the usual days. Good boy, you actually hid it from me. I almost forgot that you are not an ordinary Haxorus. The proud Haxorus keenly sensed the change on Zahu's face and immediately cried out in his heart. No, I'm exposed. Next, I can't be lazy. Zahu glanced at the uneasy Haxorus, but didn't talk to it. Instead, he walked to the side of the Goron Weng, showing a gentle smile and patting his head comfortingly. Goron Weng shouted Sonasi and saluted, indicating that he was fine. Although he didn't completely block Haxorus's 100,000 volts, it looked like he didn't suffer any damage. Zahu smiled slightly. It was indeed like this. The return punch and mirror reflection both took damage by themselves, and then bounced back twice to the opponent, but to this Goron Weng, it looked like he was not injured, just like the later Pikachu using volts to attack. Being injured? Not happening. In other words, it has great potential. Okay, don't lie there like dead people. See if Haxorus can bear it. If you two don't train well, let Jigglypuff paint on you every day. Zahu said. Lucagas, Lucario and Haunter all showed horrified expressions. Don't be so excessive. That's it. Train well, After each regular training, come and train with Gurren Weng. Facing Gurren Weng is actually facing yourself. If you can easily dodge the attack of the return punch every time, then you can easily dodge the attack under normal circumstances. Do you understand? Zahu said. Lucagas, Lucario and Haunter all showed serious expressions, and even Haunter was not naughty. As for Haxorus, as the only one who can withstand it, congratulations, your training volume will be tripled in the future. Zahu showed a very warm smile to Haxorus. Haxorus felt like falling into an ice cave, and felt the cold winter of the 12th lunar month. He thought to himself, I would rather be electrocuted, if I had known this. Why can't I be a Magikarp? If not, being the king of leave is also fine. Okay, I have to trouble you in the end, Gurren Weng. Zahu looked at Gurren Weng and said. So Nasi Gurren saluted again, indicating that he knew, and would faithfully implement it. Zahu smiled kindly. Gurren being knocked down seemed a bit unexpected, but it was actually reasonable. Many people think that Pikachu and Gurren are godlike existences. They are called Pikachu and Pikachu as soon as they appear, but in fact, these two gods are also trained. Needless to say, Pikachu has fought through many battles. In the early stage, he would be timid when encountering strong enemies and secretly hide in a small quilt. In the later stage, he would fight, whether he could win or not. The same is true for Gurren. When he first appeared, he couldn't even take Pikachu's 100,000 volts. As the plot developed, he was strengthened step by step, first rebounding the attack of Articuno in the snowy mountains, and then rebounding the attack of Giratina in the movie. Along the way, the reason why Gurren Weng became stronger step by step was probably because of the training with Musashi. Musashi never seemed to train her Pokémon. So according to Zahu's estimation, Gurren Weng's strong defense was simply developed by repeatedly going to the sky with Team Rocket and breaking through the limits. Zahu had 3 plans to add Gurren Weng to the team. First, he wanted more partners. It was a great sense of accomplishment to conquer the super Pokémon from childhood animations. He didn't want Gurren Weng to be mediocre. Second, he wanted to train his own Pokémon. Gurren Weng didn't have a special attacking move, but he was a natural sparring partner. Third, he wanted to try to cultivate a Gurren Weng with the strongest defense. Zahu concentrated on training the 4 Pokémon in his hands. However, Jigglypuff and Meowth, who were Zahu's Pokémon, didn't speed up the training rhythm at all. On the contrary, Jigglypuff had been increasingly led astray by Meowth. Training didn't exist. It's better to be a human in the skin of a Pokémon. Especially after the Hinoki gym was abandoned. Meowth, Monini, Jigglypuff, and Kajiro liked to sit together and play cards and chat more and more. Leaning against a tree, Meowth looked at Zahu's training slowly like a retired old man and said, I thought that Farfetch'd could still travel with us for a while, but I didn't expect it to leave now. That's normal, but I didn't expect the boss to subdue a Pokémon like Rango that can't attack at all. But in the future, I can also take advantage of it to train. Kajiro said. No, Kajiro, do you train Pokémon? Isn't it the boss who helps you train when he is training Pokémon? Meowth said. Really? Kajiro said after realizing it. Yes, you haven't trained your Pokémon all this time. Meowth nodded. Monini jumped out and pointed at Kajiro, saying that he, as a trainer, didn't train it well. Ah, Monini, you always say that to me. Kajiro looked desperate. This time, Kajiro went out with a total of 6 Pokémon. In addition to the Squirtle that had just been teleported back, and Monini who had been playing, there were also 4 Pokémon, long-tailed Squirtle, Growlithe, Pidgeot, and Venusaur. Listening to Monini's accusation, the other Pokémon seemed to realize that their master was unreliable. Then, they looked at the fiercely trained Haxorus and others, ran over quickly, and attacked the gorillas. The master was unreliable, and in order to become stronger, they had to find other trainers to train. You're here too, so let's do it together. Zahu smiled and didn't take it seriously. Anyway, it wasn't the first time. Then, Pikachu, Milotic, Gyarados, Onix, etc. on Zyos's side thought about it, and ran over to train with Zahu. Zyossi, Zyuksha, and Zyugang had subtle expressions. What does this mean? Are we abandoned? But we usually train seriously. Chapter 174 Circle Bear Forest. After exchanging 4 Grenada at the Pokémon exchange, Zahu and his friends headed for the next gym, the Mangjin Gym, and passed through a forest again on the way. Why is it a forest again? Are there too many forests in Johto? Kajiro said in despair as he walked in the forest. Of course there are many. We came from Kanto and had to cross the Silver Mountain. There are many trees in this section. When the Johto region was planned, this area was specially planned as a protected area. If you want a prosperous city, wait a while. We will arrive at Mangjin City and we will see the most prosperous city in the Johto region. Zahu smiled. So Nasi Grenada, who was following behind, made a sound of agreement. Zahu followed his previous promise and did not put Grenada into the Pokeball. He even stopped putting Jigglypuff and Monini into the Pokeball. However, Monini sat on Kajiro's shoulders while Jigglypuff walked all the way. As the Pokémon that followed Zyozzy and his trio in 3 regions in the animation, its walking ability is absolutely amazing. As for Zyozzy and his friends, they separated again, but this time it was not Zahu who drove them away. Instead, Zyozzy and his friends, after seeing their Pokémon taking the initiative to train with Zahu, resolutely proposed to separate the next day for the sake of their trainer's dignity. Zahu and his friends were walking and chatting, and suddenly heard the sound of fierce fighting not far away. Looking over, they saw smoke and dust rolling. Is there anyone fighting Pokémon here? Zahu looked surprised. This is the Kumaon forest, where many Kumaon live. They are easily stimulated to attack Pokémon and pedestrians along the way, especially in recent times. It is the time for Kumaon to give birth. In order to protect their children, they are more aggressive. Maybe some trainers are attacked without knowing it. Kona said. Go and take a look. At this time, Kumaon will kill pedestrians to protect their cubs. Zahu walked over there. Kona followed closely. As the king of the alliance, it is one of her responsibilities to protect the safety of the legal trainers of the alliance. Walking towards the place where the sound came from, Zahu and his men soon arrived at the location and saw an electric beast fighting a circle bear. Both Pokémon were amazingly powerful. They fought with all their might, shaking the earth. Zahu frowned slightly. This electric beast seemed familiar. Before he could think clearly, a familiar voice rang again. Electric beast, hold it down. Use the tile splitting skill. The electric beast, who was fighting with the circle bear, heard the order of his master, gritted his teeth, resisted the terrifying power of the circle bear, and his right hand was shining, and then he hit the circle bear's belly with all his strength. Bang! With a loud noise, the circle bear couldn't bear it, and was knocked to the ground by the electric beast with a punch, with a look of unbearable pain on his face. Go, Pokeball. Then, a Pokeball was thrown out, and the circle bear was captured in an instant, and then a few red lights flashed, and finally stabilized, indicating that the capture was successful. Yes, congratulations, Shinji, you have captured another powerful pet. Zahu said with a smile. Brother Zahu, when did you come? After Shinji, the trainer of Electabuzz, put away the Pokeball of Turtle, he looked at Zahu with a surprised face. When you captured Turtle, Zahu said with a smile, thinking in his heart, the 4 main forces of Shinji, Tortoise, Dragon King Scorpion, Electabuzz, and Turtle, are now all gathered. Although Electabuzz and Turtle are probably not the same as the 2 in the animation, they are definitely not bad in talent to be favored by Shinji, and with Shinji's training, their final strength will definitely not be worse than the one in the animation. After all, whether Pokémon is strong or not depends mainly on the strength of the Pokémon trainer. Shinji was about to answer when he suddenly heard several angry turtle roars around him, and then dozens of turtles stood up in the jungle around him, looking at Zahu, Shinji and others with fierce expressions, their eyes red, and they were about to fall into madness mode. Shinji, take back your Pokémon. Jigglypuff, sing. Zahu said calmly. These symbols are different from the Charizards in the Charizard Valley. The Pokémon that want to protect their cubs are the most terrifying. They will definitely rush forward. Although he is not afraid, if a fight really breaks out, Articuno can sweep a large area with one move of freezing light, but these symbols are different from Charizards. They have no hatred against him, so it is natural to use Jigglypuff. Barley Jigglypuff's eyes lit up. Can he finally speak again? Surrounded by bears, dozens of symbols stared fiercely, exuding a fierce and brutal aura. If it were other Pokémon, they would have been trembling with fear, especially those of Jigglypuff's size. But Jigglypuff was not in a hurry. When a group of symbols were ready to destroy the Death Ray, he slowly took out the microphone and started singing, with the spirit of Master who remained calm even when facing a mountain collapse. As the soothing singing began, a strong sense of sleepiness emerged in the brains of the bears. Their limbs became heavy, and even though they were unwilling, they still fell backwards and fell asleep. Kona, Kichiro, Shinji, and others were also shrouded in a strong sense of sleepiness, and fell asleep one after another. In the end, only Zahu and Jigglypuff were still awake in the entire forest. Because Zahu was there, Jigglypuff finished singing a song, bowed and thanked, and then happily took back the microphone without graffiti on the faces of Kona and others. Okay, you come back too. Zahu took Jigglypuff back into the Pokeball, released the 3 gods birds and Haxorus, and then glanced at Kona and others next to him, and began to treat them differently. He gently helped Kona onto Haxorus, and then the 3 gods birds grabbed one by one, and grabbed Kichiro, Meowth, and Shinji all with their claws, and flew out of the bear forest in one breath. When they arrived at a lake, Zahu asked the 3 gods birds and Haxorus to put the people down, and then waited patiently for a while, before they woke up one after another. Brother Zahu, is this the Pokémon you just captured? Shinji looked at the Jigglypuff beside Zahu with a surprised look on his face. He thought it was normal that the 3 mythical birds were powerful because they were mythical beasts, but what about this Jigglypuff? Before he fell asleep, he remembered very clearly that this Jigglypuff directly hypnotized the whole forest of symbols. Yes, Jigglypuff, so far, the second strongest Jigglypuff I have seen. Zahu smiled. The strongest one was of course the super ancient Jigglypuff. Is this only the second strongest? Shinji swallowed his saliva. He had also obtained the wing badge and the insect badge in succession. When he was full of confidence, he felt that, although he could not beat Zahu now, the gap in strength between them were definitely narrow. But looking at the situation today, it was clearly widened. I haven't talked about you yet. What's wrong with you? Why did you enter this forest at this time? Don't you know that the symbols are giving birth now? If you hadn't happened to meet me, a group of symbols were together just now, and I think you would have been trampled to death by them. Zahu said. But it is because they are giving birth that they will burst out with the strongest power to protect, so that we can know which urchin is the strongest. Shinji said. Zahu was stunned, looked at Shinji carefully, and then said, you are really bold. Aren't you afraid of any accidents? If we want to catch up with you, Zahu, step by step, wouldn't it be too slow? Besides, my Pokémon and I came out together just to become stronger, and we are training in danger. Shinji said seriously. Zahu's expression gradually became serious. Shinji's personality is the extreme of Zyolzi. Even because of Zahu's intervention, Shinji's personality is much better than in the early stage of the animation, and the extreme is not so obvious, but the personality difference is still very big, and it is his nature. Rational, but a little crazy. Shinji has a good rational quality to become a top Pokémon trainer. At present, among Zyolzi, Zyomeo and Shinji, he is the one who has the fastest growth in strength. How about you have a Pokémon battle with me? Let me see how far you have come. Zahu said. Okay, brother Zahu. Shinji was stunned at first, and then quickly agreed. Chapter 175 Zahu vs. Shinji. The friendly warm-up match between Zahu and Shinji begins. It's a one-on-one match. Both sides can only use one Pokémon. The one who loses the ability to fight first loses. Zahu and Shinji are fighting. Kajiro volunteered to be the referee of the match. My Pokémon is him, Electabuzz. Shinji threw Electabuzz's Pokéball and said. Electabuzz punched each other with both fists, and there were faint sparks of electricity in his eyes, revealing an extremely fierce look. Zahu's eyes condensed slightly. Although Electabuzz is only a pure electric Pokémon, its physical attack racial value of 123 proves its strong melee strength. In the animation, Shinji's Electabuzz fought against Zyolzi's senior brother Infernape, who has fighting attributes, and he was not defeated. In that case, let's have a fighting battle. Lucario, let Electabuzz know what the fighting skills are. Zahu threw Lucario's Pokéball. Lucario's eyes lit up. ever since he found that Haxorus could dodge the attack of the reflex of the Goranon, but he couldn't. He wanted to fight even more. He even took the initiative to increase the amount of training and even carried a weight on his body when he walked every day. Electric Beast, use the tile splitting, Shinji shouted. The right hand of the electric beast was shining, and with a powerful momentum that could not be defeated by 10,000 men, it chopped towards Lucario. Lucario, lightning flash, Zahu said. Lucario's figure jumped up, as agile as a cheetah, and it was the first to arrive after the latter. It lowered its head to dodge the punch of the electric beast, and then punched the electric beast. The electric beast retreated backwards due to the force, as if it didn't expect Lucario to be so fast. Electric beast, stabilize your body and use the lightning palm, Shinji shouted. A ball of yellow lightning flashed from the left hand of the electric beast, and then it violently hit Lucario. Lucario put his hands together and used them as a shield. The electric beast slammed a palm and hit Lucario's elbow. Lucario was under the force, and his legs slid a short distance on the ground before stopping and taking an attacking stance. Lucario, strengthen your punch, Zahu said. Strange energy balls gathered on Lucario's fists and continued to attack the electric beast with force. Electric beast, take it head on, Shinji said. The electric beast stretched out two broad palms forward, ready to meet Lucario's attack. Lucario's two strong punches came like cannonballs, hitting the electric beast's palms. The electric beast's body retreated backwards, and its feet left two long drag marks on the ground, but it finally held on. Okay, electric beast, 100,000 volts, Shinji said happily. He found that Zahu's Lucario was not bad, but it was much weaker than he imagined. It was about the same strength as his electric beast, or even a little weaker. Although it was strange why Zahu's Lucario was so weak, this was a rare opportunity for him to beat Zahu one-on-one, so he gave the order directly. Upon hearing this, the two blacktails of the electric beast trembled long, like two ropes to tie up Lucario's hands. Lucario tried his best to escape, but because his fists were caught by the palms of the electric beast, he couldn't break free at all. He easily tied up the two tails of the wineglass electric beast, and the strong current hit his whole body, and then he showed a painful expression. Kona's eyes lit up slightly, using his fists to withstand the opponent's attack power, and then using the physical characteristics of the electric beast to use the tail to release a strong current, creating a sure hit. Zahu's younger brother is really outstanding. Although this tactic looks simple, it is based on the three foundations: that the Pokémon is strong enough, the trainer has enough trust in the Pokémon, and the trainer has enough understanding of the Pokémon. If the Pokémon is not strong enough, it will not be able to withstand the two enhanced punches of Lucario. If the Pokémon is not trusted enough, it will not be allowed to withstand it. Even if the Pokémon is not well understood, it will not be thought that the tail can still attack. Most trainers use Pokémon moves by rote. Whatever is used in the textbook, they learn it by themselves. It is rare to be able to use the Pokémon's body to attack like Shinji. Regardless of other things, just talking about this set of tactics, Shinji's command level exceeds that of ordinary trainers. She really wants to see how Zahu will deal with it. She knows that Zahu's Lucario is now carrying weights, and when carrying weights, Lucario's level is really not high. Lucario, metal sound, Zahu said. Lucario endured the pain, opened his mouth wide, and an unpleasant noise erupted from his mouth, covering the whole body of the electric monster. The electric monster also showed an expression of pain. If it was an external force like fire and lightning, he could still withstand it under Shinji's training, but the metal sound directly penetrated into the ears and impacted the brain to weaken the whole body. Although the damage was not great, the discomfort for a moment was greater. Close combat. Seizing this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Lucario forcibly broke free from the electric monster's fists, and then Zahu's order came. Lucario did not struggle anymore, but crashed into the electric monster's arms, and his fists bombarded the electric monster's body like raindrops. The electric monster immediately showed a painful expression, and even the tail that bound Lucario loosened, and the huge body heavily retreated a few steps. You can break free like this, and you can even use a special attack like metal sound. You are worthy of being brother Zahu. Shinji showed a surprised expression. Electric Beast, use the tile breaker again. Electric Beast ran vigorously, with its right fist flashing, and attacked Lucario again. Lucario blocked it with both fists, but was hit back again, and then immediately counter-attacked with the enhanced fist. Then, the two Pokémons confronted each other head-on, punching back and forth. Electric Beast used the lightning palm with its left hand and the tile breaker with its right hand, which were so powerful that they could suppress Lucario, a professional fighter. However, after a period of stalemate, it was Lucario who broke the deadlock first. Taking advantage of Electric Beast's unpreparedness, it punched Electric Beast in the head and knocked Electric Beast to the ground. In terms of close combat, Lucario, a fighter, has the advantage after all. Although Electric Beast is powerful, it is still developing in the field of electricity during training. However, Lucario is a pure fighting type. After Zahu subdued him, he trained him almost like a professional fighter. It was too naive for the Electric Beast to fight him in close combat. Okay, Bone Strike, let's send it, Zahu said. In Lucario's hands, 2 bone sticks condensed out of thin air, and then his body rushed forward, hitting the Electric Beast's body with 2 bone sticks. With a loud bang, Lucario knocked the Electric Beast to the side of the tree, and a large amount of smoke and sand was raised. After the smoke cleared, the Electric Beast looked listless, and its 2 eyes turned into circles. The Electric Beast lost its ability to fight. Zahu won. Kajiro made a ruling. I didn't expect that Zahu's Lucario was better. Shinji sighed. He originally thought that he had a sure win, but he didn't expect that Zahu would turn the tables with a ground-based skill like Bone Strike. Hitting 5 times in a row, double the damage, adds up to 10 attacks. Although each attack is not very powerful, but 10 times added up, it is enough to make the Electric Beast, that has consumed most of its physical strength, completely lose its fighting ability. Your growth is beyond my imagination. By the time of the Johto conference, Lucario may not be able to defeat your Electric Beast, Zahu said. Next time, I will win, Shinji affirmed. He usually doesn't say this, but this time he feels that he can catch up with Zahu's Lucario. Okay, I look forward to your performance. Zahu smiled slightly, said goodbye to Shinji again, and then walked to Lucario and said, "Did you feel comfortable in this battle?" Lucario nodded happily. "Okay, then do you still need to carry weights in the future?" Zahu said. Lucario also nodded without hesitation. "Okay, we will take it off when the Johto League comes. Before that, even if we lose, we will not take it off," Zahu said. Lucario nodded again. "Okay, let's go." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.